Welcome to the Ultimate MySQL Masterclass. So in this course, I'm going to be teaching you every single thing that there is to learn in MySQL. So we are going to be starting from the very basics, covering all the theoretical topics like what are databases, DBMS, what's the difference between SQL and MySQL, why you should care about them, how all of them works. Then we will make the most beautiful set of 4-hour course, and when I say beautiful, I really mean it. All the products that we are going to be using throughout this course, all of them are totally free. Then finally we will jump into the cool part of this course. We are going to be learning about how we are going to be creating, reading, updating and deleting the databases. Then we will jump into the main part of this course, like what are tables, data types, primary keys, operators, function, constraint, altering the table, and so much more. And one of my favorite part about this course is the relationships. What are relationships? How many types of relationships we have, how we can work with them, and we're going to be also writing a code for that. And I promise by the end of this course you're going to be calling yourself as a MySQL monster. So what are we waiting for? Now let's jump into it. Before we jump into the main content of this course, I would like to say that if you want to watch this entire course as a separate videos, like if you can watch this entire course in this simple video, you can totally go to my other channel, and here you will find the entire playlist of MySQL, and here is all of that content in multiple videos. So yeah, you can totally watch it this way, or you can just watch this one video right here. Welcome to the boring part of this course. What am I talking about? Of course I'm talking about the theories. So now let's talk about what in the world is a database and why you should care about that. So a database is a structured collection of data that is organized so that it can be easily accessed, managed and updated. And I forgot to include the deletion, but yeah, we're gonna get there. It is typically stored and managed using a specialized software called Database Management System, or DBMS for short. Okay, so we're gonna get there in a few seconds, but common software or examples of databases are MySQL and SQLite, or you can say SQLite, whatever you want to call that. But now let's talk about what in the world is DBMS mean. So DBMS simply stands for Database Management System, and as the name suggests, that Database Management System. Okay, so it is a software that allows user to interact with databases. So what is a database? A database is a place where we store our data, but DBMS is a software that allows us to interact with our data. Okay, so DBMSs are designed to manage large volume of data efficiently and provide mechanism for storing, retrieving, updating and managing that data. And common examples of DBMSs are PostgreSQL and Oracle. Okay, and there are a lot, and I mean a lot of DBMSs out there. Okay, so if you just quick Google search like DBMSs, or maybe if you also search databases, so it's going to give you a lot of examples, but these are just 2 examples which I want to give you. Okay, so that was the difference between database and database management system. But now let's talk about the main point of this course, which is SQL and MySQL. So what's the difference between SQL and MySQL? So now let's talk about the SQL. So SQL, or structured query language, it is a standardized language for managing relational databases. And relational database is a huge topic which I don't want to get into, not right now, because yeah, trust me, it's a huge topic which we are going to be covering in this course, but not right now. Okay, so let me just say that once again. It's a standardized language, I can't even say that word, for managing relational databases. You can use it to interact with various database systems to insert, update, delete and retrieve data. So that was just a quick definition of a SQL. But now let's talk about a MySQL. And MySQL is an open source RDBMS, Relational Database Management System. Once again, relational. And relationship is a huge word which I'm going to be explaining in this course, but not right now. So it is a relational database management system that uses a SQL. Think of it as a database with SQL as access language. And other example of MySQL is that Microsoft SQL Server and also the Oracle databases, and there are a lot of MySQL. So if you just search that, it's going to give you a lot of different results. So yeah, that was just a main difference between SQL and MySQL, but we are not done yet. So now let me just give you a quick analogy. So I want you to imagine SQL as a common language you can use to communicate with different librarian, relational database management system. And MySQL would be a specific library with its own collection, in this case database, that you can access and manage using a SQL commands. And we did not learn any of the SQL commands, but we are going to be learning a lot of SQL commands throughout this course. So yeah, that was a bit of a theory about what in the world is a database, DBMS, and SQL, MySQL, and analogy. But now let me just give you a real world example of that. So I want you to imagine that we are working with some sort of an e-commerce website, and this e-commerce website will have a lot of data, and I mean like a lot of data. Okay, so what am I talking about? Of course, I'm talking about a different kind of users, different reviews, different comments, different prices, and different products like camera, mouse, computers, LEDs, and headphones, and microphones, and a lot of data. So I want you to imagine that we have some sort of a e-commerce website, and now we need a place where we are going to be storing all of that data which this e-commerce website will be holding. So where in the world we are going to be storing all of that data? We are going to be storing all of that data. Come on, if I can get that. We are going to be storing all of that data inside some sort of a database. Okay, so we have some sort of data, and we are going to be storing all of that data inside some sort of a database. But now the question is, how in the world we are going to be interacting with this database? And you guessed it, we are going to be using, come on, let me just get that. We are going to be using a database management system. Then we would be able to work with database, or let me just say that once again, then we would be able to communicate between the website and also the database. Okay, so this database management system, as the name suggests, it will allow us to interact with our database. Okay, so first of all, we are going to have some sort of a e-commerce website, and we are going to be storing all of that data of this e-commerce website inside some sort of a database. And if you want to store all of that data, retrieve all of that data, update that data, or delete that data, and if you want to do anything with that data, or with this database to be precise, so for that we are going to be using the database management system. Okay, so yeah, that was a lot of theory, and now let's get into the actual code. Now let's talk about how we are going to be installing MySQL in our machine. So the first thing which you have to do is that you just have to search for MySQL, and then click on the first link. And it's going to bring us to this mysql.com page right here. And I'm going to give you a few seconds to find out how we are going to be downloading MySQL from this page. 1, 2, 3. And the answer is we just have to click on this button right here. And I know it is hidden right here. Okay, then the next thing which you have to do is that we just have to click on this MySQL community GPL download. So I'm going to click on that. And then we have to just click for this MySQL installer for Windows. We have to just choose this last one right here, which is about like 285 megabytes or something like that. So I'm going to just download that, and it is now preparing for installation. So it's going to give us a wizard in a few seconds, and here is the installer, but it is looking supremely small. Okay, so you can choose the server only, you can also choose the client only, the full, the custom. So I'm going to just go with this custom one right here, and then I'm going to click on the next button. Then we have to click on this MySQL server, open that, and let me just open that right here. Then we have that, and I'm going to just choose this one, and then I'm going to click on this green arrow right here. So it's going to put it right here. The next thing which you have to do is that we have to click on this applications. We want the workbench. I'm going to show you how to work with that, but throughout the course we are not going to be using that, and you should use that. I'm going to tell you every single thing that you need, but not right now. Then I want you to just choose this MySQL workbench, and then click on this green arrow. Okay, so it's going to also add this one right here. We need the shell, so I'm going to also add the shell right here. Let me just add that, and I guess we don't need anything else than that. So we have a documentation, we have a samples, we don't need anything else than that. Let me just open this router. I guess we are not going to be using the router, but I'm going to add it anyway. So let me just add this one as well. So we are not going to be adding any documentations. Okay, so we are not going to be adding that, not the samples. So I guess these 4 things will be totally okay. So then I'm going to click on the next button. Then I'm going to click on this execute. So it's going to take a while to download and install all of their stuff for me. All of them are now successfully downloaded and installed. So I'm going to click on this next, and then we have to click on the next one more time, and welcome to the configuration. So we are not going to be touching anything. I'm going to click on the next, and then we have to click on the next one more time, and then finally we have to provide some sort of a password right here. So I'm going to add my own password, and you should type your own. Now I successfully added the password, so I'm going to click on this next, and then finally let me just click on the next for the final time. I hope this is the final time, but I'm not quite sure about that. So let me just click on this next, and finally let me click on the next one more time. What the hell? And finally let me just execute that. Okay, so it's gonna take a bit of time to install all of their packages for me, so I'm gonna fast forward the video right now. Okay, it didn't take that much time, so I'm gonna click on this finish, and now let me click on the next one more time, and we don't have to do anything right here, so I'm gonna click on this finish, and finally let me just click on the next one more time and finish. Okay, so it's gonna launch the workbench and also the PowerShell right here. Okay, so here you can see we have our PowerShell right here. You can run your code in this window. So I'm gonna just write /help right here in this case, and if I hit enter, so here you can see we have different kind of things, and here you can see we have our own workbench right here, and I'm gonna show you how you're going to be working with the workbench in a few seconds. But here you can see we have all of that stuff right here. So, and I'm gonna go ahead and just write this command right here, which is /SQL. So I'm going to just write /SQL, and if I hit enter, so here you can see it's gonna change the MySQL from JavaScript to MySQL right here, and you can write all of your queries right here if you wanted to. And throughout the course I'm going to be using the VS Code, but you don't have to, and I'm going to tell you why. Okay, so you can run your code right here, like you can just select something from something, you can check your databases and all of that stuff, which I'm going to be showing you throughout the course. So what I want you to do is that I want you to keep in mind that you can run your code inside this shell right here if you wanted to, but if you don't want to run your code inside this shell, or if you are not feeling that much confident using a shell, you don't even have to use that. So I'm going to just close that. If you want to use that, feel free to use that. If you don't want to use that, you don't even have to do that. Now the next place where we can run our code is the MySQL workbench. So I'm going to click on that, and now let me provide my own password, which I give it to this MySQL workbench. So I'm going to just provide my own password, and it's going to open that for me. So now let me make that a bit bigger, and here you can see I can write all of my queries. So like in this case, I'm going to be just typing like select everything. Oh, we don't even have any databases, so I'm going to just write like select 4 + 4. So now let me just do that, and if you want to run this code, you just have to click on this I don't know, thunder or which kind of symbol this is, but you just have to click on this symbol, and here you can see it's going to run your code. So here you can see we have 4 + 4, and the result is 8 right here. So you can either run your code by using the shell, or you can also use the MySQL workbench if you wanted to, but throughout the course I'm not gonna do that. Okay, so you can close all of that stuff by using these shortcuts right here, but throughout the course I'm not going to be using this one, and instead I'm going to be using the VS Code. So if you also want to use the VS Code, so you just have to type the VS Code and then click on the first link right here, and it's going to bring us to this landing page right here, and I have a complete course on a VS Code. Okay, but throughout the course I'm going to be using a VS Code, but if you don't want to use that, you don't even have to use that. Okay, so now let me just click on that, and you can download that for the Mac OS, for the Windows, and also for the Linux as well. But for me, I'm going to be using for the Windows, so I already download and installed that, so I don't have to download and install that once again. Now let me open my VS Code right here, and chances are your VS Code will not look the same like mine, because I have changed a lot of things in my VS Code. But if you want to make your VS Code exactly the same like mine, I have an entire course on that, or you can also watch my video on there if you wanted to. Okay, so anyways, so now the next thing which you have to do is that we have to go to the extension panel, which is this extension right here, and in your case you can just click on this symbol right here. So it's gonna also brings us to this extension area right here. So I'm using this dark magic theme. If you want to use that, so feel free to use that. I love this person and I love this theme. Anyways, so I'm going to just search for the MySQL. Okay, so if I just search for a MySQL, so I want you to just install this extension right here, and keep in mind that this extension is currently free, but I cannot guarantee for the future. In future, I don't know, maybe they remove the free version of that, but I'm not quite sure about that. But right now, throughout this course, we are going to be using this extension right here inside of VS Code. So if you don't want to use that, you can either use the PowerShell, which I just show you, or you can also run your code inside a workbench, which I just show you. Okay, so I want you to just install that, and once you successfully install that, the next thing which you have to do is that you just have to click on this database right here, and then click on this create a connection. So once you do that, and then you just have to click on this connection right here. So I'm going to just click on this connection, and access denied for the user root and localhost. Oh, we have to provide our password right here. So we have our password area right here. So I'm going to enter my own password, which I provided in the installation area. So I'm going to provide my password, and finally now let me just click on this connection, and we are now successfully connected, baby, right here. We are now totally done with that. and currently we don't have any databases, we don't have nothing inside there, but now we are successfully connected to MySQL. Okay, so finally we are getting into the coding part. So now in this section we are going to be learning about how we are going to be showing all of the databases, how we are going to be creating a database, dropping or deleting a database, using a database, selecting a database, and so much more. So first of all, let's just talk about the databases. So we already learned that databases are a place where we can store all of our data and a lot of our data. So from now on, I want you to imagine that databases are like just a folder. Okay, so if you want to see all of the folder, like how many folders we have, we can totally see there. And to see all of that folders, or in this case databases, for that we are going to be using a show database command. And now if you want to create a new database, and in this case like a new folder, you can think about a database as like a folder from now on. Okay, so if you want to create a new database, so for that we are going to be using 3 keywords. First of all, we have to write a create result keyword, then we have to write a database result keyword, and then we have to give some sort of a name for our database. So you can give it any name you like. You can give it the name of like I don't know, e-commerce or machine, computer, mouse, so whatever you like. You can give it any name you like. This is the syntax of creating a database. This is the syntax of showing all of their databases. And by the way, I'm going to be showing all of that command in a few seconds, but I want you to just see them in slides. So we have a show databases. It's going to allow us to show all of their databases which we currently have. The next one we have is a creating a database. And now let's talk about how we are going to be deleting a database. So if you wanted to delete or drop a database, for that we are going to be using a drop and then database and then that specific database name. Okay, so just like in this one, we just use a create, but now if you want to delete that, we are going to be just using a drop. Okay, so I want you to just keep that in mind. Okay, so once we create a database, or you can say a folder, so if you want to go inside that folder, so for that we are going to be using the use keyword. Okay, so we are going to be first of all writing the use keyword and then the database name. So it's going to allow us to go inside this specific database, or in this case you can say a folder. But now if you want to see like which kind of database we are currently using, so for that we are going to be using a select and then the database name. And select is a powerful keyword which we are going to be exploring a lot okay, throughout this course, but for now we just have to use them for a select database. Okay, so it's going to give us all of their databases which we are currently using. So now let me just write some code and then you will get to know what I'm talking about. So the first thing which I want to do is that I already logged in, so currently I don't have any databases right here. Okay, so I'm going to just remove that. I want you to just click on this one and I'm going to just remove that from here in my case so that you guys can see everything a bit better. And currently we don't have anything right here. So if you want to create a database, I'm going to show you how to create that using a commands. But now I just want you to just click on this plus symbol, and here you can see it is now giving us to create a new database. So I'm going to just click on this plus symbol, and here you can see they are now asking us to provide some sort of a name for our database. So in my case, I'm going to just give it the name of like PC. You can give it any name you like. And now let me just click on this execute, and what happened? Let me just show you that. And here you can see we have our PC database right here. And now let me just close that, and I'm gonna also close this one out. Okay, so yeah, now I'm going to just double click on that, and here you can see we have a few things right here, like we have a query and we are going to be writing all of our commands inside this query. Then we have a table. We did not learn about our tables. We are going to be learning about our tables in a really great detail, but not right now. Then we have a views, and this is an advanced topic which we are going to be learning a bit later. And then we have a procedures, and we also have a functions. Okay, so I'm going to collapse every single thing right here, and then I'm going to go ahead and go to my query which is inside this PC. And now let me just click on this create query right here. Okay, and you can give it any name you like, but in my case I'm gonna just give it the name of like, I don't know, test would be fine, because currently we are going to be just testing our queries. So I'm gonna just hit enter right here. Okay, so now if I do that, and now let me just expand that, and here you can see we have a test query inside this query right here. Okay, so now let me just remove all of that from here, and now let me just save that. And now the first thing which you have to do is that we have to see all of their databases which we currently have. So we only have this PC database right here, but if you want to see all of their databases, so for that we are going to be using this command which I just showed you a few seconds ago. So we are going to be using the show and then the database. Okay, so not just a database but with the S, and then close that. Okay, and now the next thing which you have to do is that we have to just click on this execute, and it's going to just execute our query, and it's going to give us all of their databases right here. So currently we have our information schema, MySQL, and we have our own PC database right here. Okay, and then we have a performance schema, and we also have a sys. And if you have like more than these databases, that's completely fine. Or if you have less than these databases, that's also completely fine. You don't even have to worry about any of that for now. But now the next thing which I want to do is that I'm going to close the sidebar by hitting Control B. And now let me just grab this result from here. And now let me just put that right here. Okay, and I'm going to just check the it's not even checking. But now let me just leave it as it is. So now let me just push that to the right like this. And here you can see here we are going to be writing our queries, and now if I click on that, it's going to expand this area right here. So that was just a new trick which I learned throughout this course. So yeah, that was how we are going to be showing all of their databases. But now if you want to comment this line out, so for that we can just use this dash dash, and if we just use that, which means like this is just a comment, like this will have no impact on our databases whatsoever. Like this is just a comment, you can just write whatever you want to write, like okay, this is a comment showing blah blah blah, or you can write anything, and we cannot execute there because these aren't just a comment. So yeah, so we can just write these two dashes, and it's gonna make our entire query just a comment. So now let me just save that. So this is how we are going to be showing all of their databases. But now let's talk about how we are going to be creating our new database. So I'm going to just hit Control B, and it's going to just expand our sidebar right here. And now the next thing which I want to do, I want to just write a create. Let me just write a create, and then I'm going to be just writing a database, and then machines. You can give it any name you like. You can give it the name of like banana, you can give it the name of like orange or HuXn. You can give it any name you like, but in my case I'm going to just give it the name of like machines right here. Okay, so this is how we are going to be creating a new database. So first of all, we have to write a create result keyword, then we have to write a database, and then we have to write a database name. You can give it any name you like. And now I'm going to just click on this execute right here, and here you can see we have our new database right here, and our query is now successfully ran. Okay, so yeah, that's that. And here you can see we have our database right here, and inside this database we have a query, we have a tables, we have a views, procedures, we have functions, we have every single thing that we want. Okay, so yeah, this is how we are going to be creating a new database. And now let me just comment this line out as well. So let's just comment this line out. I'm going to put that at the top. So this is how we are going to be showing all of the databases, and this is how we are going to be creating a new database. So now let me just create yet another database. So I'm going to just create a database for a PC. So create database and PC, and now let me just close that, and now let me just click on this execute button one more time, and now let's just do that. So can create a database PC. Oh, we already created that right here, so that's why it is giving us that error. And now let me just give it the name of like computer maybe, and now let me just click on this execute, and here you can see it's going to create our new computer database right here. So yeah, this is how we are going to be creating all of their databases. And now let me just comment this line out. I'm going to copy this line, and now let me just place there, and I'm going to uncomment there, save my file, and now I'm going to just click on this execute, and here you can see it's going to give us all of their databases which I currently have. So here you can see we have a computer, we have information schema, we have machine, MySQL, PC, performance schema, and sys. Okay, so in your case it may be, I don't know, maybe you will have all of their databases or not. So I can say that for sure. Now let me just comment this line out and put that right here. Now we are going to be deleting our databases. Like currently we have these three databases. Like in some cases we would want to delete a specific databases. So for that, if you want to delete a database, so for that we are going to be using the drop, and then the database, and then the database name. So which kind of database you want to drop or delete. So in my case I want to just delete, like, I don't know, maybe machines. So if I want to remove that machines, so I'm going to be just writing MACHINES. I hope the spelling is correct. Okay, so I'm going to just write that, and I want you to just focus on this area right here. And now if I execute that, and here you can see that machines are now successfully gone. Or now in this case, if I want to remove the computer database, so let me just write a computer, and now let me just save this file, and now let me just click on this execute, and here you can see that computer database is now successfully gone or deleted, whatever you want to call that. Now let me just comment this line out, and before I show you anything else, First of all, let me just create a new database. So I'm going to be recreating my machine database one more time, because now I want to show you like how we are going to be using that database. So we are going to be first of all writing a create. You can write it in lowercase, you can write it in uppercase, you can write it however you like. Okay, so in my case, I'm going to be just writing create in uppercase because this is my personal preference. So I'm going to be just writing like create first of all, and then we are going to be writing a database. Let me just write database, and now let me just give some sort of a name for my database. So in my case, I'm going to just give it the name of like machines, and now let me just recreate my machines right here. But now the question is, how in the world we are going to be using this database? Now we successfully create our database, but how in the world we are going to be using this database? So I want you to just imagine that, you know what, let me just make that it's smaller, and I want you to just imagine that we are going to be creating some sort of a folder, and I'm going to just give it some sort of a name. Like in this case, I'm going to give it the name of like machines or something like that. And now if I want to use this folder, so how in the world we can use that? Well, in Windows, I can just double click on that, and it's going to allow me to open this folder right here. And if I want to remove this, we are going to be first of all using the drop and then the database and then machine. So it's going to just drop it or delete it. But now if you want to use this machine, for that we are going to be using the use keyword and then the machine, like the database name, which is machines in this case. Let me just copy this name and let me just place it right here. And now let me just close that. Okay, so now I'm going to be just clicking on there, but I want you to just focus on this area. So now if I click on this use, and here you can see nothing happened, like nothing totally happened. But now instead of using this PC, we are now using this machine right here. Okay, we are now inside this machine folder or database, whatever you want to call that. We are now using that. Okay, so this is how we are going to be using our machine. And now if you want to check like which kind of database which we are currently using right now, and if you want to check this, so for that we are going to be using the select and then just write a database right here and execute the opening parentheses and closing parentheses. And now let me just close there, and now I'm going to just click on this execute, and here you can see it will now give us machines right here. Why is that? That's because we are now using machines, so that's why we are now getting these machines right here. But let's suppose if I were using a PC, let me just change that to PC right here. And you can write a lowercase, you can write it in uppercase, you can write it however you want to write it. Okay, so now let me just execute that, and now let me just execute this command one more time. So what are we getting? We are now getting PC right here. And why is that? That's because we are now using PC. And let me just finally change that one more time, because I know I'm repeating myself, but trust me, these stuff are important. That's why I'm repeating myself. So now let me just execute that and execute this one. So here you can see it's going to give us that machines right here. First of all, if you want to see all of the databases, so for that we are going to be using the show database command. And then if you want to create a new database, so for that we are going to be using the create result keyword, then the database name, and then then just write a database keyword and then a specific database name. You can give it any name you like, but in my case I just give it the name of like machine and computer. And now if you want to see all of the databases which we currently have, so for that we are going to be using a show databases with S. Okay, and now if you want to remove a specific database, so for that we are going to be using drop database and then the database name, which is computer in my case. And now here you can see we just recreated our machine one more time. And now if you want to use that specific database, so for that we are going to be using the use result keyword. And then if you want to see like which kind of database which we are currently using right now, so for that we are going to be just using the select and then the databases, and we are going to be executing that. Okay, so we are going to be just writing an opening parentheses and closing parentheses. So it's going to allow us to execute this database function. And this is how we are going to be seeing like which kind of database we're really using right now. So now that we know enough about a database, is like how to create a database, update a database, delete a database, and so on and so forth. But now let's talk about how we are going to be organizing our data, or how we are going to be structuring our data. So for that we are going to be using tables. So what in the world are tables and why you should care about that? So table is a collection of data organized in rows and columns, and tables are used to store and organize the data in a structured format, making it easier to retrieve and manipulate our data. So that was just a quick introduction to what a tables is. But now how our table is going to look like, and this is how our table is going to be looking like. So we have 3 columns and we have a lot of rows. So let me just count there. So we have a row 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, and we have 3 columns right here. So we are going to be storing our data in this table format. So it's going to be easier for us to update or delete or maybe retrieve our data from our database. This is how our table is going to be looking like. But I want you to focus on one thing. These are English characters. These are also English characters, but these are numbers. But now the question is, how in the world we are going to be storing different kind of or different types of data inside our table? So to do that, we are going to need to learn about the data type. So what is a data type and why should you care about that? Data type tells the database what kind of information can be stored in a particular column. So for example, a column with data type of integer, and you don't even have to worry about what an integer is for now, because we are going to be learning about a lot of data types later in this course. So for example, a column with the data type of integer can only store the whole numbers, while the column with the data type of text can store letters, numbers, and other characters. So this is just a quick intro to a table, how the table looks like, which kind of data we can store inside our table, and what are data types. So now let's talk about how we are going to be creating our table. First of all, we are going to be writing a create result keyword. Then we are going to be writing a table result keyword, and then we have to specify the name for our table. Okay, so in my case, I just give it the name of like games, and you can give it like any, and I mean any name you like. If you want to give it the name of like banana, orange, or maybe Jordan, or I don't know, table or templates or whatever you want to call it, you can definitely call it. But in my case, I just give it the name of like games. Then we have to write the opening parentheses and then the closing parentheses. You can totally write that in one line, or you can split that in multiple lines. So then you have to write your property and then the data type for that property. Like in this case, I just provide the property of like name, and I provide the data type of varchar, and this is the data type which we are going to be exploring in a few seconds, but you don't have to worry about that for now. This varchar will just allows us to store the characters, the English characters. And how many characters we can store inside this name? We can only store 50. Not more than that, and yeah, you can totally write less than that, but not more than 50 character. This is going to be the maximum length of the. You can store like how many you like. You can even store 255. You can store like how many you like, but in my case, I just store 50 inside there. The next property we have is the ratings, and now we provide the data type of integer to it, which is int for short. Okay, so yeah, let me just explain this. So create a new table games. The table has two columns, name and age, and name can store the variable length character string with a maximum length of 50 characters, and rating can store whole numbers. So yeah, this is how we are going to be creating our table. And I know it sounds a bit confusing and scary, but trust me, it's not. I can totally guarantee it's not that much difficult thing. But yeah, I guess I made it difficult in the explanation, I guess. But you know what, that's not a difficult topic. So this is how we are going to be creating our databases. Next, we are going to be learning about the info about their databases, but we're going to get there in a few seconds. First of all, let me just write some code. I'm going to remove every single thing from there, and I'm going to just save my file. And let me just see there once again. Currently, we only have these two databases. So we have machines and we have a PC right here. We are now currently using machines. So that's why we are now getting these machines right here. And everything is looking okay. So the first thing which I want to do is that I want to switch to that PC. Instead of using this machine database, I want to switch to this PC. Okay, so to use that, yeah, to use that, we are going to be using the use and then write a PC. And now I'm going to just click on this, and now we are using this PC right here. So now let me just remove that from here, save my file. And now the next thing which I want to do is that I want to create a table. And if you wanted to create a table, so first of all, we are going to be writing a create result keyword, and then we have to just write a table, and then we have to write a specific name for our table. So now let me just show you that inside this PC, we don't have any tables right here, like no tables found. But if you want to create a new table, I'm going to show you that in a few seconds. But now if you want to create a new table, you can give it any name you like. But in my case, I'm going to just give it the name of like games right here. And then I'm going to be writing the opening parentheses and then the closing parentheses. And now inside there, I'm going to just hit enter right here, or you can also write it in one line. But in my case, I'm going to just hit enter right here. And now let me just provide a name. And the name will be varchar, and you don't even have to worry about this varchar data type for now, but you can just think about that is like This varchar will allows us to store characters like the English characters. Okay, so here we just have to specify the length or the size of text which we want to store inside this name. Okay, so in my case I'm going to be just writing a 50. Now let me just provide a comma here, and now I'm going to be providing a ratings right here, and that ratings will be integer. Now I successfully save my file. Now we have to execute this query, so I'm going to just click on there. So it's going to just execute our query right here. And now let me just show you my table. Okay, so let me just re-expand there. I'm going to expand there, and inside this PC database we have a table, and inside this table we have a games table. And now let me just click on there. And inside this games table we have a columns, and we have the name column, and we have the ratings column right here. Okay, so let me just click on the name, and here you can see we have different kind of things. You don't have to worry about that, but you know what, here you can see we have our varchar, and we are now using, or we are now providing 50 characters right here. So what we just did is that we just create our table, and we provide these two columns to it. But now let's talk about how we are going to be getting the info about a specific table. Okay, so we have these three commands right here. I mean, like, we have more than that, but right now I'm just showing you these three commands right here. The first one we have is a show tables, and this will display the list of all the tables inside our databases. The next one we have is a show column name, and it's going to just display the column like a field of the table, and then we are going to be providing a table name. And yeah, then we have a display or describe the structure of the overall table. So we are going to be using the DESC, or you can also write a describe if you wanted to, and then the table name. Okay, so yeah, we are going to be getting the information about a specific table. I'm not talking about the databases, we are now talking about the table. Okay, so to get information about a specific table, we are going to be using the show table, the show column name, and then the describe name right here. Okay, so now let me just get some information from this table. So the first thing which I want to do is that I want to provide a column right here, and then I'm going to be just writing a show tables right here, okay, with S. And now let me just click on this execute, and here you can see it's going to give us their names right here. So we currently have these names table right here. Like if you have more than that, so it's going to give us all of their tables, but currently we only have one table, which is the game. So it will now give us that games table. And now if I just write like you know, show, let me just write a show columns from, and what is our table name? Our table name is game. So now let me just select there. I can write it in lowercase, or I can make it as a uppercase games right here. It doesn't even matter. But now if I just execute there, so it's going to give us all of their rows, I mean, like not rows, but all of their columns which we provide for our table. So we are now getting the column name of name, and we are also getting the ratings right here, and the type will be set to the varchar of 50. And then we have a next one, we have a integer. Next we are getting the null because we did not specify any value to that. So yeah, that's how we are going to be creating our table, and this is how we are going to be getting our information from that table. But I forgot to show you the last one, which is DSC games, which will just describe our table. So now let me just execute there, and now let me just show you that, and here you can see it will work totally the same. We can use the DSC, or we can also use DSC RIBE. Let me just say once again, and execute there, and here you can see both of them are now totally the same. Okay, so you can either use the shorthand, which is just a DESC, or you can also just write a DESCRIBE describe. So now let me just save that, and I guess that's gonna be it for the table. No, that's not, because we're gonna have to learn a lot more than that. We learned enough about our tables, but now let me just mention one more topic, that we can also provide a default value for our columns. So how in the world we are going to be doing that? Well, first of all, we have to create our table, then we have to create our columns, then we have to specify our data types, and then if you want to provide a default value for that, so we are going to be just using a default keyword, and then we can specify default value for that. And we did not learn that how we are going to be providing a values for our columns. We are going to be learning that very shortly, but now let me just show you the first way, is that how in the world we are going to be providing a default value for our columns right here. So this is how we are going to be adding that. And next we are going to be also learning about how we are going to be dropping our table. We are not talking about the database, we are talking about the table, like how we are going to be deleting a specific table from our database. So yeah, now let's learn that, and I'm going to go ahead and remove every single thing from there, and I'm going to go ahead and remove this table right here. So I'm going to just I don't even know how to delete that, so I'm gonna just right click on there, and here you can see we have a drop right here, so I'm gonna just click on there, click on the yes. Okay, so that table is now successfully gone, and we can now totally work with our query. So yeah, that's that. Now let me just recreate that games table one more time. Of course, we can create a lot more tables, like different tables, but I don't want to make you confused, so that's why I just deleted that table. And now let me just recreate that. So we are going to be using a create and then the table, and then let's just provide some sort of a name for our table, then the opening parentheses, then the closing parentheses, and now inside there we are going to be first of all providing the column of name. And now let me just provide the varchar, like the characters which we are going to be storing inside this table. And now let me just provide a 50 characters. And now if you want to provide a default value for this column, like what will be the default value if somebody did not provide a value for that, so we can just provide like a default right here, and then we can just write like any default value that we like. But in my case, I'm going to be just writing like single quote, single opening quote, and single closing quote. And now let me just provide the name of like anonymous. So let's suppose if we are building some sort of a social media application and we want the user information, so we are going to be getting the information from the user, like the username. And if the user did not specify their username, so we can just provide a default name for that specific user as anonymous. So I know that was an awful analogy, but anyways, so yeah, this is how we are going to be adding or providing a default value for the name column. And now let me just create another column which will be release and then dash year. Okay, and release year will be integer, and we are going to be also providing a default value to that. So currently I am recording this video in 2025, so I'm going to be just providing 2025, and you can provide like a 1995 2 or something like that, but in my case I'm going to just specify 2025. And now let me just provide a ratings right here. So now let me just provide a ratings, and ratings will take the data type of integer, and it should not null, or you know, not null is another story which I'm going to be telling you later. You don't have to worry about that for now. Okay, so yeah, now let me just close there, and finally let me just execute this query. So now if I execute there and watch what happened, if I I'm not going to show you there in this way because it's going to make you just confused. Instead of that, I'm going to be just using the DESC, like describe or games. Okay, so now let me just execute there, and now let me just show you there. So what are we getting, baby? We are getting amazing data. So we are now getting 3 fields, or you can say the columns. So we are now getting the name, the releasing date, or the releasing year, whatever you want to call there. And we are also getting the ratings right here. So this one will be a varchar, which will allow us to store a characters. Then we have an integer, and both of them are now integer. And now we are providing a default value for this one as anonymous because we did not specify or we did not insert any data for the name. So we are now getting the default value of anonymous right here. And we are also providing the release year. So the release year will be 2025, and we did not specify any default value for the last one, which is a rating. So that's why we are now getting null. So yeah, this is how we are going to be creating and describing and showing the databases and the tables. But now let's talk about how we are going to be deleting that table. So if I re-execute the same query, so watch what happened. If I click on there, so it's gonna just gives us this error like table games already exist. You cannot recreate there. First of all, you are gonna have to delete there, then you are going to be creating that. And now let me just remove that from here, and yeah, let me just save there. But still, even though I removed that query, but still we have these games right here, this games table right here. So now if you want to remove that, drop and then table, and then in this case we want to remove this game, so we are going to be just providing these games right here. And now let me just execute that, and here you can see that tables is now successfully gone. That was it about the tables. So now that we learned enough about our tables, now let's just discuss a few data types. So we are going to be discussing the char, then the varchar, then the integer, the decimal, and finally date time and the date time. Date time and the date time, what the hell are you talking about, HuXn? Anyway, so now let's talk about the first one, which we have a char, and we're going to be providing a size inside there. So char is used for fixed length character strings, and when you define a char column, you must specify a fixed length for the string. For example, if you have like char 10, and if you store the shorter string in a char 10 column, it will be padded with the spaces to fill out that fixed length. Okay, so yeah, this is a bit strict and we're not going to be using that like ever. If you want to use that, you totally can. No one is stopping you from using that, but I'm not going to be using that. Anyways, so that was a char, but now let's talk about the var char, one of my favorite one of everyone's favorite, which is the var char. And then we are going to be also providing a size inside their varchar, and varchar is used for the variable length character string. When you define a varchar column, you specify a maximum length of the string. For example, like for the varchar of 255, the actual storage size of the string is the length of the data plus 1 byte to store the length of the data. Okay, so this means the varchar can store variable length string efficiently without padding, like without providing any spaces to the. Okay, so I'm going to show you the real example of that in a few seconds, but now let me just give you a bit of what do we call it, a bit of theory. There we go, kind of lost my mind there. So now let's talk about the integers. So integer is used to store a whole number integer without the decimal points, but now if you want a decimal point, so which kind of data type we are going to be using for that? Well, we are going to be using a decimal data type, and decimal data type is used to store exact numeric values, and it is commonly used for the monetary or other values where precision is required. And the decimal data type requires the two parameters, the p and s, where the p specify the total number of digits that can be stored in the precision, and s specify the number of digits after the decimal point scale. So yeah, that's a decimal, and there are a lot. And come on, man, there are so many data types in SQL. I mean, like in MySQL. And if you just quick Google search, so it's gonna give you a lot, like a countless list of data types. So I'm not gonna be showing you every single one of them in this course, but if you need that, you can definitely check them out if you wanted to. But in this course, I'm gonna be showing you those data types which you will need like almost every day, or the most important data types. So yeah, that was a decimal, but now let's talk about the date time and the date time. The first one we have is a date data type. So it's gonna allow us to store a date values in the format of YYY, MM, and DD, which means like year, month, and then day. Okay, so for example, we have a 2024 third month, and then we have a two specific day, okay, representing the March 2 of 2024. And then we have a time. So time allows us to store the time, as the name suggests, and the format will be HHH. I mean, like the format will be HH, MMSS, like hours, minutes, seconds. Okay, so we have 14, 30, and 00, which represents like 2:30 p.m. and then we have the final one, which is the combination of both of them, like the date and the time. So date time data type is used to store both the date and the time information in the format of year, month, day, hour, minute, second. And I know that's a lot to take, like there's a lot of data types to take, but trust me, I'm gonna just make you a master of all of them. So now let's get into the coding, then you'll get to know what I'm talking about. We are going to be creating a table, but we're not going to be inserting any data to there. So now what I want to do is that I want to just write a create and then the table, and I'm going to just give it the name of like movies in this case, and you can provide any name to there. And now inside there, we are going to be first of all providing some sort of a name or title in this case. Let me just provide a title. There we go. If I can write it today, title, and the title will be a varchar of 50 characters. Okay, and now underneath there we are going to be also providing a release year or release date, whatever you want to call there, and this will be an integer. And I'm going to be also providing a ratings to there, and ratings will be decimal. And now let me also provide a comment, like if somebody wants to write a comment, so they totally can, and the comment will be only 10 characters. So if the user provide 5, so their char will add 5 spaces, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so this is why I'm not the biggest fan of using a char or car or character, whatever you want to call there. And now let me just provide a comment date, and the comment date will be date, and let me provide a default value for there, which will be 2025, because I'm recording this video in 2025. And fourth month, and let me just provide a day of 2, time as well, and the comment time will take the data type of time, and it should be default, and default will be 14 for the hour, and 10 for the minutes, and 42 or 23 for the seconds. So this is how we are going to be creating our table. And yeah, now let me just save there, and I'm going to just click on this execute, and now we successfully created our table. And now let me just provide a comma, or not a comma but a colon here, And now let me just select or we cannot select everything right now, so we can just write a describe, and then let me just provide a movies right here. So we are now going to be describing our table, and now let me just click on there, and here you can see we are now getting the title, which will be the varchar. And yes, and we did not specify any value to that, so that's why we are now getting the null. Then we have an integer, then we have a decimal, and we are now providing the precision value of 10, and we are also providing 0 right here. So then we have a varchar, we are not providing any value to that, that's why we cannot see that. And then the next one we have is a comment date, and the comment date will be a date, and we are now providing the default date of 2025 and 4 month and 2 day. Okay, and then the next one we have is a comment time, and which will be the time data type, and we are now providing the hour of 14, the minute of 10, and the second of 23. Okay, so yeah, this is how we are going to be providing different data types, and trust me, there are a lot. If you just quick Google search, so you will find a lot of list about different data types. So yeah, that was just a quick intro to data types. So now that we learned enough about a data types, so we learned that how we are going to be creating our database, then we learned how we are going to be creating a table, and then we learned what are like rows and columns. But now we are going to be learning about how we are going to be inserting a data to or table or a specific column. Okay, so how in the world we are going to be doing that? And to do that, well, the syntax is super easy. First of all, we just have to write insert into and then the table name. So in my case, I have this games table. So if you have some other table, you are going to be writing your name of your own table. In my case, I have this games table. Then we have to write opening parentheses and closing parentheses, and inside these parentheses we have to specify the column name. Okay, so here in my case, I just selected like name and ratings. And now if you want to add a specific value for this name and ratings, so this is how we are going to be doing that. So name, as we already know that this is a varchar, which means like it will only accept characters. So that's why we are now providing these codes right here. Okay, so here you can see we have a Grand Theft Auto 6, and we are now placing that inside a codes. And this one we already know that this is going to be either integer or I don't know, maybe double or something like that. So for that we are going to be adding 6 right here. You can add like whichever kind of number you like, but in my case I just added 6 right here. Okay, so this is how we are going to be selecting our table. This is how we are going to be providing a specific column, and this is how we are going to be providing a single value for a specific column right here. Okay, so yeah, that was the first one, but now let's talk about how we are going to be adding multiple values. And to do that, the syntax will be exactly the same like this one. Okay, so one thing is changed, which is that I forgot to include a comma here, but you have to just provide a comma, then you have to add another pair of parentheses, and inside these parentheses you are going to be adding data for the name, then you are going to be adding a data for the rating right here, and same will go on and on, like, and you can add how many you like. Okay, so yeah, this is how we are going to be inserting a data for a specific column. But now let's talk about how we are going to be fetching that data or retrieving that data. So to do that, we are going to be once again using this select statement, and now we are going to be learning that. So what do you have to do? First of all, we have to write a select, then the property from which table. So in real world we are going to be using select, and then like for instance, if you want to get a data from these ratings, so we are going to be just selecting that rating from which table. We are now going to be getting that data from the games table. Okay, so yeah, that's totally easy, and I'm going to be showing you that in a few seconds. But now let's talk about how we are going to be getting multiple data. So once again, we are going to be using a select statement, then we are going to be providing property 1, comma property 2, comma property 3, comma property 4, and how many you want to get. Okay, so we are going to be providing that, and from which table. In my case, I'm going to be getting the name, the rating from the games table. So this is what I'm going to be doing. So yeah, that was a basic theory of how we are going to be inserting a data and how we are going to be retrieving that data from that table. So now let's just do that in practice. And to do that, first of all, I'm going to just remove all of that code, and I'm going to just drop the table of movies. Okay, so I don't want to work with the movies, so now let me just execute that, and now our movie database is now, movie table is now successfully gone. And what I want to do is that I want to create a separate table right here. So I'm going to be using create and then table, and then let me just write a games, and inside that I'm going to be first of all providing the name, and name will be a varchar, and I'll just provide like 50 characters. And now let me also provide the release date or release year will be now integer. Okay, and I'm going to be also providing a ratings right here. So let me just write a rating, and it's going to be also an integer. And do not provide a comma at the end because this is the last one, so you don't have to provide a comma for the last one, otherwise it's going to throw you an error. So now let me just close that, and now we successfully create our table right here. Okay, so now let's learn about how we are going to be inserting a data for a specific column inside that table. So first of all, you know what, let me just describe my games table, and now let me just execute that. And here you can see we have our name, release year, and ratings, and we don't have any data right here, but now we are going to be adding them. Let's just first of all get our columns. So I'm going to be just using insert into, and let me provide a table name. In my case, I'm going to be just working with a games table. So now what you have to do, first of all, we have to select all of that column. So we have a name, then we have a release year, and then we have a ratings. So I'm going to be first of all selecting that. So I'm going to just write like name first of all, and then I'm going to be just writing release year. And now let me just provide a ratings right here. So now that we successfully select that, but now finally we have to add some sort of a value for this table, like for these columns. So I'll just write a values, and now inside there we already know that which kind of data type this name is. This name is a varchar, which means like it will only accept characters, and to do the, and to provide a character for that, we are going to be using a string. So like opening quote and closing quote. So you can write that in one quote, like in single quote or in double quote. So I'll just go with a single quote, and I'll just write like the game name will be GTA, GTA 6. And now let me provide a comma here, and now let's just provide a value for the next one, which is the release year, and release year is integer. So we are going to be adding some sort of a value for that release year. I don't know, 2015, I guess it was released in, no, this is a GTA 6, so it's going to be releasing in 2025, I guess. I don't know, man. But now the next one we have is a ratings, and rating is an integer as well. So we are going to be just, let me just make that. So you know what, let me just provide a 6 value right here, and I am going to just execute that. And here you can see everything is now successfully working. Let me just say that once again, we first of all created a table, then we describe our table, and then we select the columns inside that table, and now we successfully add data for that specific column. So that's done, and now let's just select like, I don't know, maybe one property from there. So let me just describe that once again. So I'm going to copy that and place that right here, and now let me just click on the execute, and let me just see that. And here you can see we cannot see all of their values because we have to select that. Okay, so let's just remove that from here, and I'm going to be just selecting like select. I want you to write the same syntax as me. So hold shift and hit 8. Okay, so it's going to just give you that, so it's going to just give you this symbol and select everything from where, from our games table. Okay, so I want you to write this same query right here with me, and I'm going to explain what in the world is a select and what does this mean and all of that in a few seconds, but I want you to just execute that. And once you do, let me just expand that, and here you can see we are now getting the name of GTA 6, and release year is 2025, and the ratings is 6. So we are now getting all of the data from our entire table right here. Okay, so I'm going to just remove that from here. I'm going to be just writing a select. Let's just write a select statement, and I'm gonna just say like 2 plus 2. So it's gonna just work as a calculator. So I'm going to just execute that, and it's gonna give us 4 right here. Okay, so we are now selecting that. So anytime you want to retrieve or select something from either our table or our database, so for that we are going to be using this select statement right here. Okay, so we are not just limited to plus, we can also write a minus, and we can also write it times, and we can do a lot of stuff with that. If I just execute that, so it's going to give us that 0 right here, and if I execute this one, so it's going to give us 4. So yeah, that was just a side topic about a select. And now let me just select a specific property or a specific column from our table, and to do that we are going to be first of all using this select statement, and then we have to write the property name right here. So in my case, if I want to select the name, so I'm going to just provide a name right here. You can write it in uppercase, you can write it in lowercase, you can write it even in a kebab case or something like that. Excuse me. So in God, so I'm going to be just using this name right here, and from which table, so we are going to be getting there from the games table right here. Okay, so I want you to let me just explain this query once again. We are now getting the name from this games table, so select only the name from this games table. And now let me just execute that. So it's gonna only give us that game name right here. Let me just duplicate that. And let's suppose if you want to select, I don't know, maybe the ratings. So we are going to be just using like ratings right here in lowercase ratings. And now let me just execute this one. And here you can see we are now getting the ratings of 6 right here. Okay, so that's that. And now finally let me just get the release year. So I'm going to just duplicate that, and I'm going to just providing like release year. And now let's just execute that the final time. So we have 2025, which is totally amazing. So we learned enough about the tables. And you know what, let me just explain this final one, which I just showed you a few seconds ago, which is select and everything from a specific table. So in my case, we're going to be getting every single thing from this game. So now let me just execute that. So here you can see we are now getting this GTA 6, and the release year is 2025, and the ratings is 6 right here. So this query just simply means that select every single thing from your table. Oh, I forgot to show you all of that. You know what? I'm going to just remove that from here. And let me just show you that last one. So I'm going to just remove that from here. Let's suppose if you want to select multiple things from your table. So for that we are going to be using select. And now let me just provide, like, let's suppose if you want to get the name. So we are going to be just writing a name. And let's suppose if you also want to get the release year. So we can just write like release year. Release year. And from where? From our games table. Okay, so I'm going to just write there, and now let me just execute there. And once I do that, and here you can see it's gonna only give us the name and the release year. And if you want to get like a lot of data, if you have like a lot of columns, like I don't know, maybe ratings, the genre, the director, and all of that, so you can totally do that by just only providing a comma. Let me just provide a comma. Oh my god, you just have to provide a comma, and then you have to provide your property name, and it's gonna give you that. Okay, so that's there. But you know what, I'm going to just drop this table right here. I'm going to drop this table, drop table of games, and now let me just execute there. And now our table is successfully dropped, and I'm going to recreate there once again. And now let me just remove this describe from here, and now let me just add multiple data to all of their tables right here, or columns, whatever you want to call there. And now let me just provide a comma here. Let's just add a comma, and I'm going to just provide a little bit of indentation. You don't have to do that. You can totally write your data right here if you wanted to, but for me, I'm recording this course, so I'll just provide a bit of indentation right here. So now let me just provide another pair of parentheses, and I can add multiple data, like I don't know, maybe GTA 5 in this case, and it was released, I don't know, maybe in 2020, I don't know, 23, 2013, and the ratings was 9 or something like that. I'm gonna just provide a comma, and yeah, let me just add a few more. So I'm going to provide these parentheses once again, and now let me just provide one of my favorite game, which was Batman the Arkham Knight. Batman the Arkham Knight, god damn it, man, that game was super amazing. And now let me just provide a 7 right here, and let me just add the final person, like the final game, which is AKR2. Ugh, awful game. And now let me just provide 2017, and the ratings was 2. Okay, so if you want to insert all of that data, so this is how we are going to be doing that. And by the way, keep in mind, for the last one, you don't have to provide this comma, otherwise it's going to give you an error. Okay, so now let me just execute this query. So now we successfully added all of that data right here, but now in this case, I only wanted to get only the names. So I just write this query, which is select only the name from this games table. So now let me just execute that. And now let me just show you that. So here you can see it's going to give us all of their names right here. Okay, but if you want, I don't know, maybe the ratings, so I can just write like ratings or release year. So release year right here, and now let me just execute that. So it's going to give us that name, the ratings, and also the release year and all of that. But if you want to get every single thing from this table, so for that we are going to be using select everything from the games table. So now let me just execute that. And here you can see we are now getting every single thing from this table right here. Okay, so yeah, that was it about how we are going to be inserting data to our table and how we are going to be retrieving that data. Let's talk about a primary keys, and a primary key is a unique identifier for each record in the table, and it ensures that each row in the table is uniquely identified and help maintain the integrity of the data. And a primary key column cannot have null values, and each value in the column must be unique. And I know there's a lot to take in, so what I want to do is that I want to remove this table right here. So I'll just write like drop table of games. Okay, so let's just drop this table, and now let me just remove every single thing from there, and now let's just create our new table right here. Okay, so we have a create, and then we have a table, and then a name for our table. In this case, we're going to be providing a movies, and now we are going to be just adding an ID. You can make anything unique. You can create the name, you can create the email, you can create the password, you can create like anything unique. But in my case, I only want to make this ID unique. So I'm going to be just writing ID. Then we have provided the data type. So in my case, I'm going to be just providing an int, and it should be a primary key. So I'll just write like primary primary and then key. So now let me just write a comment for you that this where is the left, okay, this is, or primary key or unique, whatever you want to call that. So this line of code is going to be always unique. If you did not specify a unique key for that, it's going to throw you an error. So what do I mean by that? You know what, let me just write a title first of all. So the movie will have a title, and title will be a varchar. Let me just make that as a title. There we go. The next thing we have is a genre, and genre will be a varchar as well of 50 characters, and I forgot to include 50 characters right here. And you know what, let me just also provide a director right here. So director will be also a varchar, and then I'm going to also provide a 50 characters right here. Then we have a cast count, and the cast count will be set to integer. Then we have a language, language, or languages rather, and it's going to be also an integer as well. And now we are going to be also providing a release year, and release year will be also an integer. And now let's just provide a IMDb rating. So I'm going to just provide like IMDb and then ratings, and IMDb ratings will be set to double in this case. And yeah, you can also provide a decimal points right here, but in my case. And finally, I'm gonna also add the duration, and the duration will be set to integer. Okay, so now we successfully created our table right here, and now let me just execute that. And once I do, and here you can see nothing happened, this ID should be unique for all of the values. So I'm going to just provide a column right here, and I'm gonna go back for a second, and now let me just insert a lot of data. So I'm going to just insert into movies, and I'm gonna be inserting first of all the ID, then the title, then the genre, then the director, and also the cast count, and also the languages. And I'm gonna also provide the release year. So we have a release year, and then we have an IMDb rating. And now let me provide a duration right here. So now let me just save that. So you can write it in this way, or you can just hit enter right here. Okay, so I'm going to just hit enter on all of that areas. So I guess I'm gonna just hit enter right now. Okay, so you can make it like however you want to make it. It doesn't even matter. So I'm gonna just make it in this fashion, and I guess this is looking better than the previous one. So let's just provide a bit of indentation right here, and now let me just provide enter right here for the final one. Okay, so I'm going to just click on the execute, and guess what, we've got an error. And do you want to know why we got this error? That's because we selected our columns right here, but we did not specify any value for that. So now let me just provide a bit of value to that. So what I want to do is that first of all, I'm going to be just adding like values. Let me just add one for the ID. Let me just hit enter right here, and this ID will always be unique, and I'm going to show you why. Okay, so now let me just add a one for the ID, and then I'm going to be just adding like the Witcher or something like that, and the genre was horror, and it was made by, and the director was this person. And now let me just provide for the rating and for the release date, and also for the IMDb, and IMDb rating was like I don't know, 5.0 something like that. And now let me just add like 122 for the duration. Okay, so yeah, that's done. And what I want to do is that I'm gonna just close that right here, and now let me just execute this. So if I click on the execute, Why am I getting an error right here? Oh, I forgot to include one more 5 right here, so I'm going to be just adding 5 one more time. Let's just add 5, and now if I click on this execute, and here you can see everything is now successfully added. And now if I want to see every single thing, so for that we are going to be using select everything from the movies. Okay, so if I do that, and now let me just click on the execute, so it's gonna give us first of all the ID, and the ID will be unique. Then we have a title, then the genre, and all of that values right here. But let's suppose, you know what, let me just drop this table one more time. So I'm going to be just dropping the table, and the table name was movies right here. Okay, so now let me just execute there, and now let me recreate there because I want to show you something. Okay, so let's just click on there, and we are going to be providing a unique ID for that, and that was a primary key. And let me just click on there, but before I do, I'm gonna just add a few more things. So let's just add a comma, and now let me just hit enter right here, and now let me just place that. Okay, so here you can see we have another movie, but we have the exact same ID right here, and that's not gonna fly here. It's gonna give us an error. Okay, so now if I click on this execute right here, so it's gonna give us an error, duplicate entry 1 for key movies and primary, because this is a primary key and this should always be unique. You cannot do that. This is a big no-no. So if you want to add this movie to the table, so for that you're gonna have to provide a different ID, either the 2 or 3 or 100 or whatever, but this should be always unique. Okay, so yeah, or in some cases, or you know, let me just add that right here and then I'm gonna explain the some cases. So here you can see the IDs are now totally unique, like this is a 1, this is a 2, and now let me just click on this execute right here, and everything will work. And now let me just execute there, and here you can see we have these 2 movies right here inside our table. Okay, so that's cool, but now let me just drop my table once again because I want to show you one more thing. Okay, so drop table of movies. Okay, so let's just execute there, and I'm going to just remove that right here. And now let me just execute this line of code. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Let me just drop my table once again and cut that code from here. And in this case, I want to add something, which is the auto complete. So auto, and then not auto complete but auto increment. So you just have to do that, and anytime you add a new value for your table, so it's gonna just provide a unique ID for that table. So you know what, we no longer have to do that anymore. So I'm going to just remove this ID from here, and I'm gonna also remove these IDs from here as well. So now let me just close that, and let me just remove this empty space from here. And you know what, I'm going to just execute this line of code, and now let me just execute this line of code. And now let me just see. Okay, so now let me just execute that, and here you can see we no longer have any IDs right here. But if I check, and here you can see anytime we add a new movie, so it's gonna automatically incrementally add a new ID right here. Okay, so yeah, that's gonna be super powerful and useful once we jump into the relationships and the relational databases and all of that kind of stuff. So you know what, for the final time, I'm going to drop this table once again. So drop table of movies. Okay, so let's just drop that, and now let me just cut that from here. I'm going to execute this query, and now let me just introduce a new movie right here. Or you know, let me just copy this entire thing. So let's just copy that. Let me just place it right here, provide a comma, and I'm gonna just change the name of that to like John Wick or something like that. And that was a comedy, or you know what, horror movie. God, HORROR, horror movie. I know that's not true, but we are adding a data to our table. So you know what, let's just execute that. Oh, we already did this, so we don't have to do that anymore. And yeah, I'm going to just execute this query. And now let me just execute this query. So it's going to give us that 1 2 3 right here. We did not add that, but it's going to give us automatically, and that's because of primary key and then auto increment right here. So that was it about for the primary key in MySQL. So now let's talk about the where. So what do I mean by the where? Where keyword is used to filter the records that meets a specified condition, and it is typically used with select, update, and delete statement to narrow down the result or specify which rows to update or delete. And we did not learn about update and delete because we are going to be learning about that very soon, but we did not learn about them for now. But now we are going to be using the where with the select statement. So that was just a quick definition of what a where is, but now let's learn about how we are going to be using that. Okay, so to use them, we are going to be just using like select everything from games table. Like we already know all of that stuff right here, But now if you want to provide a condition to that, so for that we are going to be using the where. Okay, so let me just say that once again. Select everything from the games table where rating is equal to 5. So it's going to give you all of their tables where the rating is equal to 5. Then the next one we have is like select only the name from the games where the rating is 5 right here. In this case we are selecting every single thing, and in this case we are only selecting the name. But if you have like more information, like I don't know, maybe ratings or something like that, so you can totally provide that right here by using a comma and then just provide a property name. So that was it about the introduction about the where, and we're going to be learning how we are going to be using that in a few seconds. But now let's talk about the aliases. And aliases are super amazing. Alias is just giving a new name for your existing property. Okay, so we are now selecting ID, and to provide an alias for that, so we are going to be using as, and then we can just provide any name you like. So in my case I just provide like game ID from the dating from the dating app table right here. Okay, so select only the ID, and we're going to be changing the name of that to game ID from this specific. So yeah, that was just a quick theory about the where and also how we are going to be adding aliases, and now let's just do that in practice. Alright, so now let's talk about how we are going to be using the where clause. So I'm going to just comment this line out. Come on, let's just comment there. Okay, so I'm going to just zoom in a bit so that you guys can see everything a bit better. And now I want to select every single thing from the movies database where the genre is equal to action. So now let me just write as genre is equal to action. So it's gonna only gives us this extraction movie right here, which is, which genre is set to action. So now let me just click on this execute, and it's gonna give us the ID of 2 and the title of extraction right here. But if I had a lot of movies, so it's gonna give us all of their movies whose genre is equal to action. Okay, so that was the first one. Now let's talk about the second one. So I'm going to be just selecting, in this case, just a title. So I'm going to just write like select only the title of the movies from the movies table where the genre is equal to action. You can also specify the horror if you wanted to. So now let me just execute that. So it's gonna only gives us that title right here, like only the extraction movie, nothing else than that. Okay, so let's suppose if I just choose this horror movie, so let me just paste this horror right here, save my file and execute that. So it's gonna also give us John Wick movie right here. I know John Wick wasn't a horror movie, but I just made it right here. Okay, so it only gives us one. It should have, oh, here you can see it gives us 2. I thought it only gives us a John Wick. Anyways, so now you get the idea. Now let me just show you yet another one. So now in this case we are going to be selecting the title and also the genre from the movies table where the genre is equal to action. Okay, so we are going to be getting the title of the movie and also the genre of the movie. So now let me just click on this execute. So it's going to give us their title, and the title is extraction and the genre is action right here. Okay, so yeah, this is how we are going to be getting multiple thing or multiple information from our table based on this where condition or where clause, whatever you want to call that. Okay, so now let me just comment, not comment there, but now let me provide my semicolon there, and now let me just select the title from movies where IMDb rating is equals to 5.0. Okay, so I guess it's gonna give us all of the movies, because all of the movies IMDb is set to 5.0. So now let me just click on this execute. So it's gonna give us all of their movies right here, like we have The Witcher, Extraction and John Wick. But if you also want the ratings, so you can also just write like IMDb. First let's provide a comma and then just write a IMDb ratings. And now let me just click on this execute. So it's gonna give us all of that ratings right here. Okay, so yeah, let me just go back so you guys can see everything a bit better. And this is what we are doing right now. So now finally let's talk about the aliases. So let me just put that right here and close them. And you know what, let me just write a separator for myself. So these are going to be what do we call it, my select statement. And now let's talk about the aliases, like how we are going to be providing an alias for a specific property. So let me just provide a select. First of all, we are going to be selecting only the ID from the movies, from the movies. But now if you want to provide a specific name for this ID, or if you want to provide an alias for this ID, so we are going to be just writing like as in uppercase or in lowercase. You can write it either in uppercase or in lowercase if you wanted to, but now in my case I'm going to be just writing like movie and ID. This is going to be the alias for this ID right here. Okay, so this as well allows us to provide an alias for our property or column, whatever you want to call there. So now let me just execute that. So it's gonna only gives us all of that IDs right here. So we have ID 1, 2 and 3. So that's why we can totally use that. But now let me also provide an alias for the title as well. So I'm gonna be just selecting my title as, and now let me just give it the title of like movie name or something like that, and from movies. Okay, so let me just say that once again. So we are now getting only the title of the movie, and we are providing a new name for that, or the alias for that, which will be a movie name from the movies table. So now let me just execute that right here. So it's going to give us that movies titles right here, which you can see. Okay, so this is how we are going to be getting either ID or a title. So yeah, now let me also provide an alias for the IMDb rating. So I'm going to just write like IMDb and then rate, come on, RATINGS and ratings. And now let me just provide an alias for there, like movie rating right here. Okay, so we are going to be getting that from the movies, and now let me just execute that. So once I do that, so here you can see everything is working totally correctly, but now we are providing a new name for that. Okay, so that's that. Now let me just select the cast count, and now let me just rename that to like cast, or all cast would be fine. All cast would be fine, and we're getting there from the movies database. So now let me just execute that, and here you can see we are not getting any cast. Yeah, we are getting cast right here. Okay, so we have all casts, and we are now getting all of their 5 right here. Okay, so yeah, this is how we are going to be using condition by using the where clause, and this is how we are going to be providing an alias for our table data or column. So now let's talk about how we are going to be updating a specific column inside our table. So to do that, the syntax may look a bit confusing, but trust me, I'm gonna just make you a master. The first thing that you have to do is that we have to provide the update result keyword, then we have to provide the table name, like which table data you want to change. Okay, so update and then the table name, and then we have to use the set result keyword, then the column, like which kind of column you want to change and which kind of value you want to add. Like this is going to be the newly added value, and you can do that for the rest of the column if you wanted to. Then based on that condition, we are going to be changing that column. Okay, so like we're going to be providing some sort of a condition, and based on that condition, we are going to be changing this value. HuXn, that's super confusing. Break this down for me. Let me just do that for you, boss. Let me just do that for you. So first of all, we have a table name, and this is going to be the name of the table you want to update. Then we have a columns, like here you can see we have this column 1 and column 2 and so on and so forth. So that columns will be the column you want to update. Then we have the value, like we have value 1 for this column and we have value 2 for this column. There will be the new value you want to set for your column. And then the final one, we have a where, like based on this where condition, we are going to be changing our data, like the condition that specify which rows to update. If omitted, all of the rows will be updated. This is going to be the scary part, which I'm going to be showing you in a few seconds. So yeah, this is how we are going to be updating our column. But now let me just show you that in a real world example. So here you can see we are going to be using like update, and we have a users table, and we want to set the age property, and it's going to be equals to 30. I don't know, like if the age is 20 or 10 or 40 or 100 or whatever the age is, but we want to change that to 30, and we're going to be changing that if the ID is equal to 1. Okay, so yeah, now let me just write some code, and then you'll get to know what I'm talking about. So what I want to do is that I want to delete all of that coding, and I'm going to give you the link, and you can find all of that coding in my GitHub repository. So you know what, first of all, let me just drop their table of movies. Okay, so let's just drop that because we don't need that anymore. And now let me just write a create table and users, and inside this users table we are going to be providing the ID, which will be the primary key, and I'm going to also provide a name for that. So the name will be set to varchar of 50. So then the next thing which you have to provide is the age, and then we have to provide the email, and the email will be varchar of 50. Okay, and now finally we have to also specify the user password right here, and the password will be varchar of 50. And we are not going to be storing the user password like this in our database, but this is just to demonstrate my point. Okay, so you know what, I'm going to just create this table right here. Okay, so now we successfully create our table. Let me provide my column right here, and now I'm going to be inserting data to that. So first of all, let me just insert into the users table, users table, and we are going to be providing ID, the name, age, and also the email and password. Okay, so we are going to be doing that, but finally we have to add values to that. So for the ID, we are going to be adding the 1, Then for the name, let's suppose we have a John user, and then for the age, we're going to be providing 25, and then for the email like john@gmail.com or something like that, and then we have a password like password123 or something like that. Okay, so I'm gonna add a lot of users, like I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 more. So let me just provide a comma here, and let me just break this down, and I'm going to be adding my users like this. And now let me just add these users right here. So we have this user 3, and we also have this user 2 right here. So we are now adding that Jenny, and the age will be 30, and this is going to be her email, and this is going to be her password. Then we have a Bob 35, and this is going to be the email, and this is going to be not her but his password, the Bob password. So now let me just add that. I'm going to just click on this execute. So now we successfully added all of that data to our table. So now the next thing which you have to do is that we want to select everything from the users table. So let's just execute there. So it's going to give us all of their users right here. So we have ID, name, age, email, and password, and everything is looking so smooth. But now let's talk about the main point, like how in the world we are going to be updating a user. So update a user age or something like that. So let's just talk about it. Okay, so I'm gonna just hit enter right here, and the first thing which you want to do is that we want to update, and then we have to specify the table name. So in this case, we are only interested in the users table, so we are going to be updating that, and we can totally write all of that query in one line right here. Like we can use the set age, and it's going to be equals to 30, and then we can use the where operator and all of that in one line. But I personally don't like this, so I'm not going to be going with that route. But if you wanted to, so you totally can write that in one line. Okay, so now the next thing which you have to do is that we have to write a set result keyword, and in this case we are only changing the user age, and age is going to be equals to 30. And if you do that and if you execute that, trust me, it's going to change all of the users age to 30. Like this one will be 30, this one will be 30, and also this one will be 30. Okay, so we don't want that. So for that, we are going to be providing the where class. So where the ID is equals to 1. So now let me just say that once again. We want to change the user age, and we want to set that to 30, and we only want to set the age of 30 for the first user. Okay, so we have the ID of 1, so we are going to be only changing that first user. So let me just show you that. Here you can see we have this John user right here, and this John is from this users table, and his age is now set to 30. And now let me just show you that. And here you can see, his age is now set to 25, and here you can see we have that. So now if you want to change that, so for that we are going to be just executing this query. So now let me just execute that, and now if I select everything, so we have select I'm gonna just select everything from the users, and we want to see all of their users. So now let me just click on there, and here you can see we have that John, and the John age is now set to 30. Okay, so this is how we are going to be changing the age. We can also change the username, we can also change the email, we can also change the password. And now let's just do that. Let's suppose if you want to change the user password right here, like maybe you want to change this user password to something else, so we can totally do that. Or maybe if you want to change the user password to something else, like for the first one, we can totally do that. Update user age. Okay, and now let's just copy that, and I'm going to just write this comment for myself and update the user password in this case. Okay, so now let's just do that. So the first thing which you want to do is that you want to write update result keyword, and we want to get all of the users from the users table, and then we have to just use the set result keyword, and you want to change the password, and the password will be set to this this is new password or something like that. Okay, totally simple password where ID is going to be 1. We only wanted to update the first user password, and what will be the password? The password will be set to this is a new password. Okay, so now let me just execute that, and now let me select every single thing by using this query, and now so I'm gonna just execute that, and here you can see we are now getting this is a new password right here. Okay, so yeah, this is how we are going to be updating the user credentials. And we are not only limited to the users, we can also change the other table like movies, the games, the PC, e-commerce. We can do all of that, but this is just one example. We can even also change the name of that. So I'm going to just instead of that, I'm going to just change the name, and the name will be HuXn, HuXn 2.0. And now let me just execute this query, and now let me just show you there, and here you can see Zen 2.0. So yeah, this is how we are going to be updating a specific column inside our table. Oh, I just realized that I forgot one thing. I forgot to show you this last thing. So let's suppose if we forgot to just include this where clause. Now let me just cut that from here, and now we are updating all of the users, and we are now setting the name to HuXn 2.0. So let me just click on this execute, and you are executing the update statement without the where clause. Are you sure you want to execute there? Yeah. Don't do that, like don't ever do that. But for me, I'm doing that because I'm showing you how much problems it's gonna cause. Okay, so now let me just click on the yes, and the query is successfully executed. Execute there, and let me just show you that. And here you can see we have a name and all of the users names are now set to HuXn 2.0. But this is supremely crazily what do we call it, powerful, and also scary and dangerous. Like never ever use that without the where clause. You have to specify some sort of a condition for your query. Okay, so yeah, I hope that helped and that makes some sense. I'm gonna have to drop my database and recreate this, so let's just drop there. I'm going to just write like drop table and users. Okay, so let's just drop there and recreate this. So I'm going to just create this table, and then we are going to be inserting all of their data, and everything is now looking okay. But in your case, it will not work like that. Okay, so you might be working with, I don't know, maybe 1,000 of users, or maybe 1 million or billion users if you are in a Facebook or or Google or Gmail or something like that. So always take care of the where clause. So this was about our update. Now let's talk about how we are going to be deleting a specific column from our table. So to do that, the first thing which you have to do is that we have to write a delete result keyword. And here is a caution: please do not ever make yourself in a situation that you have to delete the entire column, and I'm gonna also show you that in a few seconds. So first of all, we have to write a delete, and then we have to write a from result keyword, and then the table name, and then we have to specify where, and then the condition. So I know that doesn't make any sense, so now let me just break this down for you. So we are going to be just using the delete result keyword, then we have to write a from result keyword, then we have to write a table name. In my case, I'm using a users, so my table name will be set to users, and where the ID is equal to 1. Okay, so I'm going to be only deleting that specific user whose ID is set to 1. Okay, so I'm going to just delete that. And here is the scary part. If you want to delete every single thing, or if you want to clear out your entire table, so for that we are going to be using like delete everything, like delete from a users without the where clause. So it's going to just delete every single thing from our users table. And now let me just show you that. So that was it about for the update, and I'm going to just remove that from here. And here you can see we have these 3 users right here. So let's suppose if I want to delete one, so I'm going to just write delete user. Okay, and not add but delete user. And now let's suppose if you want to delete a specific user, so first of all I'm going to be just writing a delete result keyword, then we have to write a from, and then we have to write a table name. In my case, I'm working with the users table, so I'm going to just write a users, and then we have to write the where clause, so where the ID is equal to 1. And once again, you can totally write that in one line if you wanted to, but in my case, I'm teaching you this. I'm just breaking things down. So yeah, this is how we are going to be deleting a specific user. So it's going to just delete this John users from our database or from this specific table. So now let me just execute there, and now let me see all of the users. So I'm going to copy this command, and now let me just place that right here, and now let me just execute there. So here you can see we no longer have the user with the ID of 1 right here. I guess I forgot to show you something. Let me just check this out. So you know what, if you want to delete the entire table, like if you want to clear out the entire table, so for that you no longer have to provide this where clause. And trust me, this is dangerous. Let me just write some sort of a this is dangerous. Okay, so never ever do that. X blah, never ever do that. Okay, so let me just comment this line out. Let's just comment there semi file. So it's gonna just delete all of that users from our table. So now let me just execute there, and now let me check this out, and here you can see our table is now totally empty. So yeah, this is how we are going to be deleting a specific user or a column from our table. I thought that we are going to be discussing a lot of function from now on, but no, we are not there yet. So what's the point? So what are we going to be learning right now? Well, we are going to be revisiting to the data types. So we briefly learned that how we are going to be applying a data type like varchar and varchar, or I don't know, maybe come on like char, and also the date, and also the time, and also the date and time, and all of that. But we did not learn that like how we are going to be adding a value for that. So now let's start with the first one, which is what's the difference between varchar and just a char. So for that we are going to be just using the create table and games. Let me just check if you already have the games table or not. Okay, so we don't have any games table. We have only a users table, which is also empty, by the way. But they are not okay, it's not empty. Yep, it's not empty anyway. So yeah, we have a games table right here, and inside this games table we are going to be providing some sort of a name for our game, which will be a varchar, and we're going to be adding only 10 characters. Now the next thing which you have to do is that we have to provide a genre, and the genre will be now set to char, and it's going to be set to 10. Okay, so now let me just show you the differences between both of them. So we are going to be inserting into the games table, so I'm going to be just providing the name and also the genre. And now let me just add the values, or let me just do that in one line. So we have a values, and now let me provide like game 1, and I'm gonna also provide like action for the genre. Okay, so now let me just select every single thing from the games table. I don't know why I took a pause there, but yeah, I was just thinking about something else. So now let me just close that and execute this. So if I execute that, and now let me execute this one and execute this one, so here you can see it's going to give us their game 1, and the genre will be now set to action right here. So what's the difference between the varchar and the char? This varchar is now taking 10 characters right here, and I'm only providing like 1 2 3 4 and 5. I'm only providing 5. This is going to be exactly 5. It's not going to take any extra memory, and it's not going to add any spaces to it. On the other hand, here you can see we are now providing 10 for the char as well, and we are only adding 1 2 3 4 5 and 6. But for the char is gonna add 4 extra spaces, like that was 6, so we have 7 8 9 10. Okay, so it's gonna add extra spaces to fill up this entire field. Okay, and this is why a lot of people don't use that, because it takes extra memory. So yeah, that was the first example, and that was the main difference between the varchar and the char. But now let's talk about the date, time, and the date. So I'm going to just remove that from here, or I'm going to even drop the entire table. So we have a drop table of games. So now let's just drop that and execute that, save my file, and now let's just recreate a new table. So create a table of events. Let me just do that in lowercase. So we have events, and the event name will be the varchar, and I'm going to be just adding like 255 characters, and the event date will be now set to data type. Let me just do that, like event time will be equals to time, and I'm going to also provide the event date time will be now equals to the date time right here. Okay, so that's there. Now underneath that, what do I want to do? I just want to say like describe the table. So let's just write describe the events table. Okay, so we have events table. So now let me just execute that, and now let's just describe that, and you already know that it's going to give us that varchar date time and date time. So that's completely okay. But now the next thing which you want to do is that you want to insert some sort of a data for all of these fields right here. So to insert a data, let me just comment this line out. So to insert a data, the first thing which you want to do is that we want to select our column. So we are going to be using like insert into the events, and we are going to be providing the event name first of all, then the event date, and then the event time, and then the event date time. Okay, so I guess I'm gonna have to close this one right now. And now let me just add values to this. So I'm going to be just adding values. So we have like meetings or meeting, and then we have like 2024 and 03 for the, I mean, why am I saying 03? This is going to be the year, this is going to be the month, and this is going to be the day. Like 02 will be for the day. And now let me just add for the hour will be just 14, and then we have a minutes, and minutes was 30, and then we have a seconds, and seconds are totally 00. We already provide the event name, which will be set to meeting. Then we have the event date, which was this date right here. Then we have a event time, which was this time. But now let's provide a value for this event date and time. Okay, so we are going to be combining both of them. So we are going to be just using both of them. So I'm going to copy all of that stuff from here, and now let me just place there, and I'm going to just provide one space, and now let me just copy all of that, and now let me just provide that right here. Okay, so that was the first one, and I'm gonna pause the video, and I'm going to add, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 more, and I'm gonna come back in a few seconds. And here you can see the next meeting we have is a presentation, and then we have a party. So yeah, I just added these time right here, and I'm going to first of all insert this table. Oh, we already did that. I forgot to show you that. I forgot that. So we already did that. And now let me just execute this table right here. So now we successfully added all of their data, and now the final thing which you have to do is that you have to check all of that. So we are going to be using select every single thing from the events table right here. Okay, so let's just close that, and now let me just execute that, and here you can see we have a meeting, presentation, party, and we have all of their data which you can see right here on the screen. So this is how we are going to be working with the date, time, and date time. But now let's learn about a few functions based on that time. So let's suppose if you want to get a current time, this is not actually tied to this table right here, but we are going to be getting a current time. So like now you will just reveal my secret, like the current time in which I'm recording this video. So select, come on. And by the way, if you're watching this video in the future, so please, this is not outdated course. If it was outdated, so you won't be watching this course because I would have deleted this. So we have a select current date, and now let's just execute that, and now let me just execute that, and here you can see this is the current date in which I'm recording this video right now. So 2024, and third will be the month, and this is the date. The final one we have is a date. Okay, so this is the current date, but now let me just provide a colon here and select everything, or the current time in this case. So it's going to also give us the current time in which I'm recording this video right now. So now let me just execute there. So the current time that I'm recording this video right now. Okay, so now let's just close this one, and I'm going to just write select now. So it's going to give us that same date and time. So now let me just execute there. So here you can see we have the date, and it's going to also give us that time right here. So that was a useful functions. And now what I want to do is that I want to delete every single thing from there, and I'm going to be creating yet another table. So let's just create the table of comments, and now let me just provide the ID first of all, and the ID will be integer and auto increment and primary key, as you already know there. And then we have an author, and then the author will be set to varchar, and we're going to be providing 255 like that. And next we have to also provide the content for that comment. So we are going to be using the varchar once again in 225 not 25 but 255. And then we have the created add date. So we are going to be using a new data type which is a timestamp, and then the default value we are going to be providing for that is going to be the current time. Okay, so now the next thing which you have to do is that we have to also provide the updated add when the author of this comment update this comment. So we are going to be getting this timestamp once again, timestamp, and this is going to be the default, and we are going to be getting the current time on the update, and then we are going to be getting the current, come on, current timestamp right here. Okay, so I'm gonna just close this one out, close that. And now let's insert some data to there. So we are going to be using like insert, come on, insert into comments, and we are going to be providing the author, author, and then the content. Okay, and we are not going to be taking care of the created ad and the updated ad because we already specify a default value for that, so we no longer have to take care of that, and neither for the ID as well, because this is going to be the auto increment. We already learned all of that stuff. So we are going to be providing the values right here, and first of all I'm going to be adding my own self, HuXn baby, and this is a great article. Okay, and now let's just hit enter right here, and I guess I'm gonna have to just duplicate that a few times, like maybe 3 times would be fine. The next user we have is a Jordan, and then we have a Charlie. Okay, Charlie Chaplin or yeah, whatever. I have a question about this topic. Charlie is asking a question about this specific topic, and then Jordan is asking a specific question about this article, and Charlie is saying thanks for sharing this information. Okay, and now let me just provide a period right here, and now let me just execute this table, and we've got an error. Oh, it shouldn't be a current time. It should be a current timestamp. So we have to just write current timestamp. And this is not going to be the current time. This is going to be the current timestamps. There we go. So now let me just execute there. And here you can see that's now successfully working. And now let me just insert that data to it. And that's successfully working. And now let me just make that as a side by side so you guys can see everything a bit better. I want to select every single thing, so we are going to be just writing like select every single thing from the comments sections. So now let me just execute this. So it's going to give us that ID, the authors, and also I mean like the comment IDs and who is doing their comments and which kind of comment they're doing, when this comment was created and when it was updated. So it did not update, so that's why we are getting that current time. But if we update that, we're going to be getting different time. So what I want to do is that I want to focus on updating. So let's just write updating right here, updating. There we go. And now let's just zoom in a bit. And now I'm going to be using update, and then the comments, we are going to be updating the comments table, and we are going to be setting the content, and we are going to be just saying like what is the first person saying? The first person is saying this is a great article. And yeah, I'm going to make myself as a bit rude, like the hell are you talking about is going on here. Okay, so now where the id is equal to 1, and now let me break this down for you. So we are going to be making that as a set in another line and the where in another line. This is going to be just updating that first comment. So I want you to focus on this area. You know what, let me just make the right here. I guess that's looking cool. I want you to focus on the time right here. So when I update that, and when I update that first one, so it's gonna just change this time right here. So we have come on, you know, let me just copy there. Oh my god, let me just copy there, and let me just place that right here and comment this line out, and I'm gonna just execute there. And once I do, and now let me just see all of their comments once again. So we have a select every single thing from the comments, and now let me just execute there. And for the first one, so we used to have this time, and now we are changing that to this time right here. Okay, so this is how we are going to be working with the dynamic data. So now let's just close there, and yeah, that was the first one. But let's suppose if you want to update that second one as well, so we can also do that. So we are going to be just writing like update comments, and I guess that's gonna do it. And now let me just write a set result keyword, and let's just change the content of that to like never mind, my query is solved or something like that. And I'm gonna also provide like where the ID is equal to 2. Okay, so let's just close there, and I'm gonna just execute there. And once I do, and now let me just check there, and here you can see not only the comment is updated, but we are also changing this date right here, or this time, their specific time. That was it about for all of their data types, which I want you guys to know. So we learned a lot about data types like varchar and just a char, the date, the time, the boolean. Oh, we did not learn about the booleans, but we don't care about that, not right now. And we learned a lot of stuff about what do we call it, data types. So I want you to prepare yourself for a lot of theory. And by the way, if you don't want to watch this theory, so you can jump straight into the coding and you don't even have to watch the theory. But this theory is for those people who care. Okay, so now let's talk about the substring functions. So substring function is used to extract a substring from a string. That was kind of a mouthful. It allows you to specify the starting position and the length of the substring to extract. So we are going to be using a substring function. We are going to be providing our own string in which we want to subtract our data. Then we're going to be providing the start position and then the length. So how in the world we are going to be using that? This is how we are going to be using this. So we are going to be first of all writing like select, and then we are going to be using a substring, and as a string we are going to be providing my own name. You can provide like any kind of string that you like, and then we are going to be providing a starting position. So it's going to be starting from the 1, like from this edge, and it's going to go to the third one. So we have a 1, 2, and 3. So it's going to only give us that HUX without the N. Okay, so that was a substring, and now let's talk about the replace. So replace function is used to replace all the occurrences of the substring within a string with another substring. So we have a replace method or function, and we're going to be passing our string, and then we are going to be specifying the old string, I mean like the old substring, and then we're going to be passing a new value for that string. Okay, how we are going to be using that? This is how we are going to be using that. So we are going to be using the replace function, and we are going to be passing the content. So in this case, we are going to be passing some sort of a string, and then we are going to be providing the select portion, like we are going to be selecting some sort of a portion, and then we are going to be replacing that. Okay, so that was the replace function, and now let's talk about the reverse. And as the name suggests, it's gonna just reverse our entire string, like no matter how many characters it has, it's gonna just reverse that for us. And now the next one we have is a char length or character length. So it's gonna only give us the character, like the amount of character which is inside our string. Okay, so like let's suppose if you have the name of HuXn, like we have a string of HuXn, so we would have a 4 characters. So you know what, that was just a basic theory, and now let's just write some code and then you will get to know what I'm talking about. So what I want to do is that I want to delete every single thing from there, and I want to also drop the users table if you already have that. So let's just drop that, and yeah, we had that and we removed that. So now the next thing which I want to do is that I'm going to give you a link which will bring you to my GitHub repository, and inside that repository you're going to find all of that coding right here. Okay, so what we are doing is that we are just creating a users table, and we are providing a user ID to them, which will be the integer and a primary key and auto increment. Then we have a first name for the user, the last name, the email, and also the password, and also the age right here, and they're all going to be not null, which basically mean like if you didn't provide any value for the first name, last name, email, or for the password, so it's going to throw you an error. We also have a unique right here. Unique, as the name suggests, that email is going to be always unique. I want you to keep that in mind, like not null, like this value will not be null, and this one will be unique and not null. You cannot leave that totally empty. So now we are inserting the first name, the last name, email, password, and also the age, and we are now providing a lot of users like Jen, Michael, Emma, William, Olive, James, and a lot of their users, and we are providing different kind of last name for that, and we are also providing a different email and also different password and also different ages right here. Okay, so now let's start from the first function, which is a substring, but I forgot to execute this query. So now let me just execute that, and I'm going to also insert all of their data, and now we successfully insert all of that data right here. Okay, so now let me just make that side by side like this, and I guess I'm gonna have to go back like that. Now let's start from the first function, which is to select the substring, and I'm gonna be first of all providing like not HuXn but hello world, and now let me provide a 7, and I'm gonna also provide the length of 5 right here. So what are we doing? We are now providing this, or you know, let me just execute that, then you will get to know what I'm talking about. So I'm going to execute that, and here you can see it's gonna only give us their word right here, and it is not giving us that hello. And why is that? That's because we are now providing this hello world, so it's gonna take first of all 7 characters out. So it's gonna first of all start from this age. So we have 1 2 3 4 5, also including this space and not including this W right here. Okay, so if you just write like 5, so it's gonna give us that 4. If you write like 10, so it's gonna give us 9 right here. So anyways, you get the idea. So it's gonna just remove all of that, and it's gonna just start from this W right here. Like this is going to be the starting point, and then where we want to go through, we want to go through the 5 characters. So we have 1 2 3 4 and 5, so that's why we are now getting this word right here. Okay, so that was the first example. Now the next example I want to give you is that I'm going to just leave there, and I'm going to also just write like select in this case, and I'm going to just say like substring one more time, and in this case I'm going to just provide my own name, which is HuXn, and now let me just provide a 3 right here, and now let's just close that. So I just provided a 3, so what do you think is going to happen? We did not specify the end position, but we just specified this 3 right here. So it's going to take like 1, then 2, then 3, not including this 3, but it's going to just take like HU, and then it's going to start from the XN. So now let me just execute that, and here you can see it's going to give us that XN right here. That was the second one. Now let me just give you yet another example. So we have a select, and then we have a substring one more time, and in this case we are going to be passing the database data, which we have like first name right here. So we are now adding all of these users, which you can see right here, all of these users first name. So now let me just add this first name right here, first name, and I'm going to just provide a 2 right here in this case. From where? From my users table. So now let's just execute that, and once I do that, so it's gonna only gives us the substring of all of their users right here. But if I didn't specify that substring, let me just show you that. But if I did not specify this substring right here, let's just close that, and I'm gonna also remove that from here, save our file and execute that. So it's gonna give us all of their users name, like we have Jenny, Michael, Emma, and Williams, and all of that. But if we did specify that substring right here, and we're going to be just cutting out the 2 characters from the first name, so it's going to give us this result right here. So we have a Jenny, so we have Annie, and we have different kind of names right here. So that was the next one. Now let me just give you yet another example. So I'm going to be using select, and let's just use a substring one more time, and I'm going to be providing first of all the first name, and then I'm going to be providing 2 and then 6. Okay, so from where? From the users table. So what are we doing? We are now providing all of the users first name, and we are just starting from the 2. So it's going to take like let's suppose if you have let me just show you there. If you have like Jenny, and we are now providing 2, so it's going to take the 1, and it's not going to take the 2, so it's going to cut out the first character, and it's going to give us the rest of them. And then we want to go through the 6, so it's going to go through I'm like, we don't have any 6 character right here, so it's going to just only gives us the rest of them. So now let me just execute them, and here you can see we are now getting the Annie right here, and so on and so forth. So you can test this out by yourself if you wanted to. And you know what, let me just give you the last example. So we have a substring right here, and we are going to be passing the first name, and let's just pass the 1 and 7 from where? From the users right here. So we are going to be omitting the first character, and we are going to be going in through the rest of them. So we are now providing 7 right here, so it's going to take all of that 7. So now let me just execute that, and here you can see it will just, oh, I forgot to do it. It will not omit any of the characters because we are now starting from the first one. But if you want to omit that first one, so we are going to be just writing like 2 in this case. And now let me just execute that. So it's going to take out that first character from the first names of the user table. Okay, so that was the substring. And now let's talk about the replace method. So I'm going to just write replace, and let's just replace a few things. So the first thing which I want to do is that I want to show you the replace right here. So we're going to be just providing like let me just provide a hello world right here, and I'm gonna just provide like first of all we want to select that hello word which we have inside this text. So we are going to be first of all providing the text, and then we are going to be providing the starting portion which we want to replace. So we are now providing this hello right here, and we want to replace that with by right here. So I'm going to just say by, and now let me just execute that. So it's going to give us by word right here. Instead of a hello word, it's going to give us a by word. Okay, so that's that. Now let me just close that right here, and I'm going to just give you yet another example. So select replace, and we're going to be providing this HuXn right here, and I want you to select the X and replace that with the Z. Okay, so we are going to be just cutting out this X, and we are going to be replacing that with this Z right here. Okay, so now let me just execute that. So it's going to give us that HuXn. Okay, so that's that. Now the next thing which I want to do is that I want to give you yet another example. So I want to give you 2 more examples, and that's going to be it for the replace. So we have the replace function one more time, replace, and I'm going to just provide the first name. We want to take all of the users first name, and I want to take the Jenny for instance, and I want to change that to like Jenny. And we are going to be getting that from the users. So from the users table, so what are we doing? We are now searching for all of the users who have the name of Jenny. Okay, I mean like the first name of Jenny, and we are now changing that or replacing that with this Jenny. So let me just show you that. Okay, so we have this Jenny right here, so we are going to be just replacing the first user to the Jenny by adding a lot of ease at the end. Okay, so now let me just execute that, and here you can see we have a Jenny. There we go. That was a horrible thing to do, man. I really regret that. But now let me just show you the last example. So we have replace, and I'm going to be passing the last name in this case. And now let me just search for the dough, and we are going to be replacing that to dough, like that much. And we're going to be getting that from the users table. And now let's just execute that, and here you can see we are now getting the last name of dough. This is how we are going to be replacing all of that data. So let's just hit a few enters, and now let me take care of the reverse. So we are going to be just writing like reverse. Let's just hit enter. Let me just zoom in a bit, and I'm going to be selecting the reverse, reverse, and we're going to be providing like hello world. So what do you think will be the reverse form of this hello world? So now let me just show you that. I'm going to execute that, and here you can see it's going to give us that Dilaro Oli. Yeah, cool. And now let me just do one more. So we have a select reverse, and we are going to be providing like HuXn. So what do you think is going to be the reverse of that? And we are now getting nazuh. Yeah, nazuh. We are getting nazuh. Anyways, and now select the reverse, and now I'm going to just specify the first name from the table, and we're going to be getting that from the users. And now let's just execute that. So it's going to just reverse out all of the first name of the users, and I'm going to also do that with the last name as well. So let's just provide a last name, and now let me just execute that right here. So it's going to also just reverse out the last name as well. And yeah, now finally we have to just specify the password. So we have select the reverse of the password from where? From the users. Okay, so now let me just execute that, and here you can see it's going to just reverse out all of their passwords right here. Okay, so yeah, this is how we are going to be using the reverse function. And now let's talk about the char length or a character length. So we have a char length, length, there we go. And now I'm going to be just first of all selecting the char length. We also have an alternative method for that, which is a length, I guess, but I've never used that one, so yeah, I can't say anything about that. So let's just write a hello world. So what do you think, how many characters will this hello world include? So now let me just execute that, and that's 11 characters. So yeah, let's just provide a colon there, and now let me select my char length one more time, and I'm going to just space like HuXn, so it's going to give us that 5 characters. So 4 characters. My bad. So yeah, and now let me just also provide a select the char length one more time, and I'm going to just provide a first name, and the first name will be coming from the users table, and execute there. And here you can see it's going to give us the length of all of their first name of the users, and we can also do that for the last name if you wanted to. So now let me just change that to last and execute there, and here you can see it's going to give us the length of all of the users last names. Okay, that was a lot of talking that I did right now. We have alternative method for that. Let me just also show you that. I'm going to duplicate all of that, and I'm going to just write separator for myself. And now let me just select this char length, and I'm gonna just hold control. If you are a Windows user, so I want you to just hold control. If you are a Mac user, so you should hold the command button and then hit D. Yeah, and then hit control D one more time, control D one more time, and just replace that with the length, just a length. So I guess it's gonna also give you that same result. So now let me just execute that. Yep, it will also give you entirely totally the same result right here. So yeah, that's cool, and I guess that should do it. Let me just see if I forgot something or not. And here you can see we have a substring, we have replace, we also have the reverse, and we also have the char length. Yep, we cover all of them. And I mean, like, we didn't cover all of them. There are a lot of functions which you can explore by yourself, but these are just the most useful one. And now let's talk about the order by. An order by clause is used to sort the result set of the select statement, and you can specify one or more columns to sort by, and optionally you can also specify the ascending order or the descending order. Okay, like from lowest to highest or from the highest to lowest. Okay, so how in the order we are going to be doing that? Well, to do that, first of all, we are going to be using the select statement, then the column name, and then from which table we want to order there by. So we are going to be using like some sort of table name, and then we have to use the order by, and then we have to specify the column and either the ascending order, like from the highest to lowest, or from the descending order, like from lowest to highest. Okay, so how all of that is going to look? This is how it's going to look. So we are going to be selecting the product ID, the product name, and also the price from where? From the products table, and we are going to be making the order of that. So we are going to be using the order by price. We are only ordering all of that by price, and we want them to be in the descending order. Okay, so not from the highest to lowest, but we want them from the lowest to the highest. and I'm going to show you that in a few seconds. But now let's talk about the limit. So limit clause is used to restrict the number of rows returned by the select statement, and it is often used with the conjunction with the order by clause to retrieve a specific number of rows starting from the particular position in the result set. And this is how it's going to look like. So we are going to be just getting all of them, but if you want only 5 of them, so we can only specify the limit of that to only 5, not a lot than that. Now let me write some code, then you'll get to know what I'm talking about. So the first thing which I want to do is that I want to write a comment for myself, and what I want to do is that I want to select the first name from the users, and we want to order thereby. So we are going to be just writing like order by the first name, and we want them to be in the ascending order, so we can just write ascending order. I guess we can also write the entire thing like ascending, but we don't have to. So we are going to be just executing this query right here, and now let me just execute that. Oh, this shouldn't be a ACS, it should be the A. Come on, A is C. And now let me just execute that. So it's going to order all of the entire user by their first name in the ascending order, like from the top to the bottom. So what are we getting? We are now getting A first of all, then we have a B, C, D, and so on and so forth, starting from the ascending order, like from the top to the bottom or from the highest to the lowest. There we go. Now we can also use the descending order. So instead of just A is C, we can just write a DESC, which also means describe, but in this case it means the descending order. So now let me just execute that, and it's going to start from the descending order, like we have a William, and then like we have a WSO, and so on and so forth. Now let me just order them by their specific length. So we are going to be using the select first name from the users, and we also want them to be ordered by the length. So now let me just use the length, and I'm going to be also passing the first name right here. Okay, so you already know that what this length will do for us, the length of this first name right here. So now let me just execute that, and here you can see it's going to give us the Mia first of all, and I guess we didn't specify any ascending or descending, so that's why we are now getting there. But anyways, you get the idea. So we are now getting this Mia, Eva, Jenny, and here you can see we are now getting there from the lowest to the highest right here. And yeah, we can also change there to ascending or descending. So now let me just also show you there. Let's just duplicate that, and I'm going to just use the descending order in this case. And now let's just execute that, and now it's going to give us their descending order. So we have yeah, based on the characters, I can't even count them, but you get the idea, like what do I mean by descending and ascending, and so on and so forth. So that was how we are going to be ordering things by some specific condition. But now let's talk about how we are going to be limiting the result right here. Like in this case, you can see we are now getting like almost 20 users right here. But let's suppose if you were to working with like, I don't know, maybe 1 million users, so it's going to give you 1 million user, and we don't want that. So how in the world we are going to be limiting that? And to do that, we are going to be using a limits. But you know what, first of all, let me just show you the first, the first name from the users right here. And now let me just execute that, and here you can see it's going to give us all of their users right here. Like we have 20 users, and you know, let me just expand that for you. So here you can see we have their 20 users right here, and now let me just use that limit right here. So I am going to just duplicate that, and I'm going to just specify the limit of 5. Like I only want to get the 5 users, the first 5 user, not more than that. Okay, so now if I execute that, so here you can see it's going to only give us that 5 user right here. So we have 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, and here you can also see that. Okay, so this is how we are going to be limiting the result of our search query. And yeah, we can also get like 2, we can also get like 100 or 1000 if you wanted to. And now let me just execute that, and it's going to only give us there 2 users right here. Okay, so yeah, this is how we are going to be making the order, and this is how we are going to be limiting our search query. Now let's talk about the like. So the like operator is used to select a statement to search for a specified pattern in a column, and it is often used with the wildcard character to perform a pattern matching. And wildcard are something which I'm going to be explaining in a few seconds. But before we getting into the explanation of this video, I want to say that, are you even enjoying this video? If you are, so please subscribe to the channel and like this video. Thank you so much. So now let's just get into the coding. So this is how we are going to be using that. So we are going to be selecting every single thing from the products table, where the name and like A, and this is the wildcard which I'm going to be explaining right now. Okay, so let's get into it. So I'm going to first of all write a separator for myself, and then we are going to be starting from the wildcard. So we are going to be discussing these two wildcard. The first one we have is the percent, and then we have a underscore. The percent wildcard means 0 or more characters, and then the underscore wildcard matches exactly one character only. Okay, so how we are going to be using that? This is how we are going to be using that. So we are going to be first of all selecting every single thing from the users, and now let's just do our magic of the like. So where the first name come on, where the first name is like, and now let's just use our percentage sign, and then J, and then percentage sign one more time, and let's just see the result of that. So I'm going to be just writing a J, and I didn't mean to provide a semicolon there, so now let me just add that right here, and now let me just execute that. So user is not created. What the hell are you talking about? Users, and what are we doing? ERS, god damn it, users, there we go. And now let's just execute that. So it's gonna only give us all of that people which names include the J. It doesn't matter where, like if the name is starting from the J, or if the J is at the middle, or if the J is at the end, or something like that. So it's gonna search for all of that database, and it's gonna search for all of the users first name, and if it found one of them which is including the J, so it's gonna give us all of their users right here. So that was the first wildcard, which will be searching for 0 or more characters. So we are now specifying this J right here, so it's going to be searching for this J in the entire table, but if it match one of them, so it's going to give us the result of that. So you know what, I'm going to just duplicate that, and now let me just search for the MMA, which we have this MR right here. So we have this MMA right here, and we also have this MMA for that one, but we are only searching for the first user, and we also have that right here in this one. So now let me just execute that, and now let me just comment this line out, and now let me just execute that, and here you can see it's going to give us the Emma with the user ID of 3, and it's going to also give us the Emma Baker with the user ID of 20 right here. Okay, so it's going to search for all of their database, and if it found one of them which includes the MMA, so it's going to give us that. So that's that. And now let me show you another wildcard. So I'm going to just duplicate that, and instead of using these what do you call a percentage sign, we are going to be just using the underscore right here. Let me just use the underscore, and it means that it should only match one character right here. So let's suppose if you are searching for the Emma, so we are going to be first of all writing this underscore, and then we are going to be just writing like MMA. It will just search for the entire table. It's going to ignore the first character, and it's going to just search for the rest of them. Okay, so now let me just comment this line out, and now let me just execute that. And here you can see we are now getting this Emma Jason. Yeah, Jameson or Johnson. And then we have a Emma Baker right here. Let's suppose if you are searching for the Alexander, so now let me just duplicate that. So I'm going to be just skipping the A and also the L. So then we are going to be just writing like Alexander, and now let me just search for that. So it's going to give us the Alexander Allen with the user ID of 14. And that, ladies and gentlemen, that was the like. So now let's talk about the aggregate function. So we are going to be talking about the count, the min and max, sum, average. Okay, so we are going to be talking about that. So let's just talk about the count. So what is the count? As the name suggests, there is going to give us the count, or this, I shouldn't have to say sum, but now let me just define that. So we have a count, and count function is used to return the number of rows that matches a specified condition. It can be used to select statement to count the number of rows in a table, or count the number of rows that meet a specific condition. Okay, so we are going to be using select count, and then select every single thing from the products table where the category is equal to electronics. So we can also specify like a specific category right here, or we can do a lot of stuff which I'm going to show you in a few seconds. But yeah, this is going to be the syntax. So now let's talk about the min and the max. So as the name suggests, there's going to give us the minimum and also the maximum. And now let's talk about the sum. This is totally self-explanatory. So we have a sum. It's going to just allows us to sum up all of the columns or all of their data, which we are going to be providing with that. And then finally we have an average, so it's going to just give us the average of the column. So you know what, let me just write some code, and then you'll get to know what I'm talking about, because I don't want to waste your time on the slides. So you know what, let me just start working on that. So the first one we have is a select. So we want to select the count of everything. Let's just write everything right here from the users. So we are going to be selecting every single thing and we are going to be counting that. So it's going to give us all of their columns, which is 20 columns right here. Okay, so that was the first one. And now I'm going to be just selecting the count one more time. And in this case, I'm going to be passing the first name from the users, and it's going to also give us their 20 right here. So here you can see we are now getting this 20 right here, which is exactly the same like this one. So yeah, that's that. But now let me just use that count one more time with the where clause. So we are going to be selecting the count, and let's just select every single thing from the users. And now let's just use the where condition right here, where the first name is equal to Emma. Okay, so we want to search for all of the users where the first name is equal to Emma. So we want to get the count of that. So I'm going to just execute that, and users, there we go. And now let's just execute that. So it's going to give us only 2 people who have the name or the first name of Emma right here. So that's why we are now getting Emma, or we are getting 2 as the result right here. And now let's just select the count of every single thing from the users. And now let's just use the where condition one more time. So where the first name is equal to, let's suppose, the Michael, Michael. So Michael, now let's just search for a Michael, and I'm going to execute then. So we only have one Michael, so that's why we are only getting this one right here. Okay, so this is how we are going to be searching for a specific thing. And now let's just talk about the min and the max, like the minimum and the maximum. So now let me just provide a comment right here, and now we are going to be selecting every single thing, and we are going to be getting the minimum of that. So the minimum of the edge from the users. Okay, so let's just execute that. So it's going to give us that 10 right here, the minimum size of 10. Like, what will be the minimum edge inside this entire database right here? The minimum edge, we have a 10, so that's why we are now getting this 10 right here. So now let me just go to the bottom one more time, and now I'm going to just write select the max. Come on, select the maximum edge. And now let me just put the edge right here from where? From the users. Okay, and now let me just execute then. So it's going to give us the maximum edge, which is 80. And now let me just also get the average right here. So we are going to be using like select the AVG, and let me just provide the edge. And I know that's silly, like, oh, who will get the average from the edges? But you know what, let me just execute that. So it's going to give us this amount of average right here. So we have 35.8 500 or something like that. So it's going to give us the average of that. And now let me just finally use the sum. So let's just use a select everything, or select just a sum of the edges. Okay, so it's gonna just sum up all of their edges, and it's gonna give us the result of that. So now let me just execute that, and the result of all of the edges we have is like 717. I know that's silly, but yeah, I want to just give you a simple example, and now you know all of them right here. Okay, so this is how we are going to be getting the minimum, the maximum, the average, and the sum. And you can totally use that like however you want to use that. And this is how we are going to be using the count. So now let's talk about the group by. And group by clause is used in the select statement to group the row that have the same values in the specified column. And how we are going to be doing that? This is how we are going to be doing that. First of all, we are going to be selecting the product ID. Let's suppose if you want to get the sum of the quantity from the products table, and we want to group that by the product IDs. So this is how we are going to be doing that. You know what, it's not that much difficult thing to learn, so I'm going to just go a bit fast. And here is the comment, like, let's say you want to find out the average age of a user's group by their first name. So how we are going to be doing that? And to do that, you are going to be just using like select the first name from the entire database, or not database but a table, and we want to get the average of the age as, let's just provide or rename that. So average age right here, and I'm going to get that from the users table, and we want to just group that, come on, group by the first name. Okay, so it's going to give us all of their users. So now let me just execute that, and here you can see it's going to just group all of them by the average. So we are now seeing all of their first name, and we are also getting the average of the age right here. So this is how we are going to be working with the group by. in MySQL. Alright, so now let's talk about the not equality operator. So what in the world is a not equality operator and why you should care about that? So the not equality operator is used to test for the inequality, and it returns true if two values are not equal and false if they are. And we're going to see that in action in a few seconds, but first of all I want to show them in slides. So that was a not equality operator, and now the next one we have is a greater than. And this is a comparison operator, which means like it's gonna allows us to compare two values. And so now let me just say that once again. So the greater than symbol in MySQL is used as a comparison operator to check if one value is greater than another, and it is used with the where class to filter rows based on a specified condition, something which we are going to be learning in a few seconds. So now the next one we have is a less than, and the less than symbol is also used as a comparison operator to check if one value is less than another. It is used with the where class to filter out rows based on a specified condition. Now the next one we have is a logical operator, so it's going to allow us to make some logic. This will allows us, like these two will allows us to provide some sort of a comparison, and now these two will allows us to provide some sort of a logic. So the AND operator is a logical operator used for performing the logical AND operation, and it returns true if both operands are true. Otherwise it's going to just return false. And once again you're going to see that in action. So now the next one we have is the OR, and the OR operator is used to combine two or more condition in the where class. It is used for performing logical OR operations. So yeah, the next one we have is a between, and the between operator is used to filter the result set within a specific range. It is inclusive, meaning it includes both the start and the end values specified in the range, and we're going to see that in action in a few seconds. Okay, so now let's talk about the final one. I guess this is the final one. Then we're going to be jumping into the case statement. So now let's talk about it. So the in operator is used to specify multiple values, and it allows you to filter the result set based on a list of a specific value. Okay, so you know what? That was a lot of theory, and now let's get into the coding and see that in action. So who's Lalo? Let me just remove all of that from here, and I'm going to remove all of that right here. Let's just remove all of that, and here you can see we have all of their data right here. And so now the first thing which I want to do is that I want to make a separator right here, and now let's get into the operators. So what I want to do is that I want to select the first, select the first name and also the last name as well. From where? From the users. Let me just write that in uppercase. So from the users, where, let me just write where the age is not equal to 35. Okay, so this means like this operator mean I'm using a ligature, so that's why you cannot see that, but this operator just simply means that we are first of all writing this exclamation mark, and then we are writing this equal to sign, but I'm using a font ligature. So if I just do that, so here you can see it's gonna just make it like this, so which means like this is the not operator right here. Okay, so we want to get the first name and the last name from the users table where the age is not equal to 35 years. So now let me just execute that, and here you can see it's going to just give us all of their pupil who is not 35 years old. So you know what, let me just also get the age as well. So I'm going to just provide a comma and age. Okay, so now let me just re-execute there once again. So it's going to also give us all of their ages right here. Okay, so here you can see we don't have any 35-year-old person right here inside this list. So I can totally comment there. And now let me just write the where clause one more time. So we have where the first name is not equal to the Emma. So I want you to give me all of the pupil but exclude the Emma. Okay, so you know what, let me just say that once again. So select the first name, last name, and also the age. So I want you to give me these information from the users table where the first name is not equal to Emma. So now let me just execute there, and here you can see it's going to give us all of the pupil except Emma. Okay, you know, let me just search for that. I can't even search right here. Let me just search that right here. So Emma, and here you can see we don't have any Emma right here. So this is how we can filter our data by using the not equality operator right here. And you know what, let me just show you the final one, and I'm going to be also using where the password is not equal to the password 4 right here. Let's suppose PWS WORD like that. And now let me just execute there one more time. So it's going to give us all of the users except the fourth person right here, or the person who have the password of 4. So it's going to give us all of their users except this one person right here. So now let me just comment this line out, and I guess I'm going to just comment the rest of them right here. And that was the first one. Now let me just show you the next operator right here. And now let's talk about the greater than operator. So what I want to do is that I want to select every single thing from the users, but you know what, let me just hit enter right here, but where the age is greater than 50. So I want you to give me all of the users whose age is greater than 50. So now let me just execute that, and users man users like that, and now let me just execute that, and here you can see it's going to give us only these 3 people who are greater than 60, I mean like 50 years old. So that's why we are now getting these 3 people right here, and we are not getting the rest of them. And that was the first one. You know what, let me just comment this line out, and let's suppose if you are searching for like 60, so like greater than 60. So now let me just execute that. So now it's going to give us only 2 people right here. And why is that? Because the ages are now greater than 60, so that's why now we are only getting that 2 people. And now let me just comment this line out once again, and I'm going to be using like where the length, you know what, let me just use the length function right here, where the length is first name is greater than 5 right here. So I want you to give me every information about the users from the users table where the length of the first name is greater than 5 characters. So now let me just execute that. So here you can see it's going to give us the total of 10 users right here. First name is greater than 5 characters. So that's why we can now get there right here. So yeah, this is how we are going to be using the greater than right here. Now let me just comment all of them right now. Let's just comment there. I'm going to copy there, and now let me just place that right here. And now the next thing which I want to show you is the less than. So you know what, I'm going to just, I'm not going to copy that. Let me use select every single thing from the users table where the age is less than 50. Let's suppose if you want to get all of the users whose age is less than 50. So now let me just execute that, and here you can see it's going to just give us 16 people right here, or maybe 15. So here you can see we have that all of their users whose age is less than 50. So that's why we can now get all of their users. And now let me just comment this line out, and I'm going to be using like where the age is less than maybe 60. So it's going to give us a lot more than that. So now let me just execute that, and here you can see now in this case we're now getting 17 entries right here, like all of these ages are less than 60. So that's why we are now getting all of their users right here. Okay, so now let me just comment this line out, and now let me just search for the length. So where the length of the first name is less than 50. So I guess it's gonna give us maybe 1 or 2. So now let me just save that, and oh my god, give me 7 result right here. So these are all the names which characters are less than how many of them? Less than 5. So here you can see we have 1, 2, 3, and 4. And yeah, it's gonna give us all of their users right here. So now let me just comment there, and I'm gonna also comment there. Now let me just copy this separator, and now let me just place that right here. And now let me show you the AND operator. So we are going to be selecting once again. So let me just select every single thing from the users database, and now I want to get like where the age is greater than 50, and let me just write and the length of the first name is greater than 50. So let me just explain that right here. It's gonna first of all check like if age is greater than 50. If that's true, then it's gonna check this one right here. If this condition is also true, so it's gonna give us some sort of a result. But if this condition is failed, so it's not gonna even bother checking this condition right here. So this AND operator will search for both of these conditions. If one of them fails, so it's gonna just stop executing, and it's gonna just give us that much result. And if both of them are true, so it's gonna give us a result based on that. So now let me just execute that, and here you can see it's gonna only give us that one person right here whose age is greater than 50 and his first name length is greater than 5. So here you can see we have only one person inside our database, so that's why we are now getting that. Okay, so let me just comment this line out, and now let me just show you another one. So where the first name is equal to Emma and the last name is equal to Johnson. Okay, so now let me just execute this. So inside our entire database, we only have this one person right here whose first name starts from the Emma and last name is Johnson. So that's why we are now getting all of the information about this specific user, and this is how we are going to be filtering our user by using this AND operator right here. So we are using that right here and also here. Okay, so let me just say that once again. So we want to select every single thing about the user from the users table where the first name is equal to Emma and the last name is equal to Johnson. So it's going to only gives us that person, and if we have like a lot of them, so it's going to give us all of that yeah, all of that result. Okay, so now let me just copy that, and now let me just place that right here. And now let me just show you the OR operator. So we want to select every single thing from our table right here, from the users table. And now let me just use the where the age is less than 30 or the age is greater than maybe 70 right here. So let me just say that once again. So you want to select every single thing from our users table where the age is less than 30. So it's going to first of all check this condition. If this condition is matches, so cool, it's going to give us result based on this condition. You know, let me just highlight that. So first of all, it's going to just check this condition. If this condition matches, so it's going to give us results based on this condition. If this condition is false, then it's going to jump to this condition right here, and it's going to check this condition. Okay, so if this condition is true, so it's going to give us results based on this condition. But if this condition is also false, so it's going to just give us nothing. Okay, so it's going to first of all check if age is less than 30 or age is greater than 70. Okay, so now let me just execute that, and here you can see it's going to give us. Okay, so here you can see we have all of these users right here, and we have only add character. We have only add users right here. So this is how we are going to be filtering our users or all of our tables based on the OR operator. So now let me just comment this line out, and then you know, let me just show you the final one. So I'm going to copy this entire query from here. Now let me just place that. And now let me just uncomment that, and instead of using the AND operator, I'm going to be using the OR operator. So first of all, it's going to check for this condition. If this condition matches, so it's going to just give us result based on that. If this condition does not matches, so then it's going to give us result on, result based on this condition right here. So now let me just execute that. And here you can see it's going to give us two people right here. So we have a Emma Jason or Johnson. Why am I saying Jason all the time? So we have Emma Johnson and we have Emma Baker right here. Okay, so let's suppose if I just remove the first name and if I change that to like nothing, and now let me just execute that. Now it's going to first of all check for this condition. If this condition matches, so it's going to give us result based on that. If this condition does not matches, then it's going to jump to this condition, and if this condition matches, so it's going to give us result based on this condition right here. And now let me just show you that, and here you can see we are now getting the Emma and Johnson right here, which is super amazing. So now let me just comment this line out, and I'm going to also comment this line out. Okay, so now let me just paste that, and now let me just show you one of the easiest one, which is the between. So I'm not going to be wasting a lot of your time by saying the between all the time. So select every single thing from the users table where where the age is between 40 and 60 right here. So I hope this query is clear for you. So we want to select every single user whose age is between 40 and 60. So now let me just execute that, and here you can see it's going to give us like all of their users whose age is between 40 and 60. So yeah, that's how the between works. And I guess yeah, the final one is left, which is the in. So I'm going to comment all of them out, and now let me just place that right here, and now let's just use the in. So I'm going to be selecting once again, select every single thing from the users, and now let me just hit enter right here one more time where the age is in. Let me just provide a parenthesis 25, 30, and also 35. So I hope this is simple for you. So you want to select every single thing from the users where the age is in between 25, 30 or 35. So now let me just execute that. So it's going to only gives us that 6 result right here. So we have 35 for the rest of the rows, and we have 30 for this row right here. Okay, so yeah, that's cool. And you know, let me just comment this line out, and now let me just use like where the first name is in Jenny, like if the first name is in this list. So we have a Jenny, we have the Emma, and we also have EMMA, and we also have the Olive. So Olivia, 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 there we go. So now let me just execute that. So if I execute that, and here you can see it's going to give us that Jenny, Emma, Olivia, and it's going to also give us that Emma Baker right here. Okay, so it's going to just check like if we already have the first name in this list, in this list. Okay, so let me just provide in uppercase. You can write the in lowercase, it doesn't even matter. But yeah, now let me just use the where clause, where email is in either the Jenny, let me just write Jenny at example.com or the Olivia at example.com. So it's going to give us there two people. So now let me just execute there, and here you can see it's going to give us there Jenny and Olivia. So we learn about the not equal to, the greater than, the less than, and also the and operator, the or operator, and also the between, and finally we just learn about the in operator right here. So now let's talk about the case statement. So case statement allows you to define a conditions and return different values based on those conditions. So how that's gonna look like, this is how it's gonna look like. So first of all, we are going to be providing the case result keyword, then we are going to be passing some sort of expression, and here is the conditional area right here. Okay, so first of all, we are going to be passing some sort of a condition. If this condition matches, then show us result based on this condition. If this condition is false, then jump to this next condition right here and check this condition. If this condition is true, then gives us result based on this condition. If this condition is also false, so then jump to the next one, and so on and so forth. Like if you have a lot of them, so it's gonna just first of all check if this condition is true, so it's gonna give us result based on there. If that's not true, then jump to the next one and the next one, and so on and so forth. So finally, if none of the condition are matched, so finally gives us some sort of a default value right here. Okay, so you know what, I feel like I'm just eating your brain. So now let me just write some code, and then you'll get to know what I'm talking about. So I'm going to just use the select, and now let me just provide the first name and also the age as well. So now let me just provide the age, and you don't have to use this convention which I'm using right now. I love this convention, that's why I'm using that, but you don't have to follow me. Okay, so I'm gonna just hit enter right here, and when I do, and here you can see it's gonna give us there when, and then some sort of a condition, then we can specify some sort of a condition, and if that condition is true, let me just zoom in a bit. If that condition is true, gives us some sort of a result based on that condition. So in this case, I'm going to be just passing like age is less than 30 right here. So let's suppose this is going to be my condition, and now if I hit tab, and here you can see we are going to be just providing young right here. Why is that? If this condition is matches, then we want to get the young. If this condition does not match, so we want to just get I don't know, maybe old or something like that. So you know what, let me just pass one more condition right here. So I'm going to be providing when one more time, and you can provide unlimited amount of whens if you wanted to. So now let me just provide an age. If age is greater than or equal to, and did you just saw what I did there? So I just used the greater than, and then I use the equal to. So if I just remove this space, so I'm using a font ligature, so it's gonna make it like this symbol, but I'm using this greater than and then equal to right here. Okay, so now let me just write there once again. So when age is greater than or equal to 30, and now we are going to be using the and we are now combining both of those logics. So we are going to be using the age and less than if the age is less than 60. And by the way, don't worry, I'm going to explain this coding in a few seconds. So middle age would be fine. And if that's not the case, so we are going to be just writing like senior or something like that. And yeah, and finally I'm going to just write like n as age group. Okay, so we are going to be just creating some sort of a group, and now let me just remove that from here, and I'm going to be just passing the from. We are going to be getting all of their data from the users table right here. So you know, let me just explain all of that coding right here. So what are we doing? First of all, we want to select the first name and also the age, and here we are going to be passing some sort of a conditions right here, and based on those conditions we are going to be creating some sort of a age group. You can give it any name you like, but in my case I just give it the name of like age group, and we are going to be getting all of their data from the users table. And now let's talk about these conditions right here. So if age is less than 30, so it's going to give us this result right here like young. If that's not true, so then it's going to jump to this next condition right here, and here we are going to be checking if age is greater than or equal to 30, then gives us some sort of a result based on this condition. But here you can see we are now combining our condition, and it's going to just check like if this condition is true and this condition also have to be true. If age is less than 60, so we are going to be getting the middle age right here. If none of these conditions are matched, then finally we are going to be getting a senior right here as a default value. Okay, so you know what, let me just execute that, and once I do, so here you can see it's going to give us all of their users right here. So we have, you know, let me just go back. So we have this new group right here which we are creating, which I just show you. Like you can give it any name you like, and in my case I just give it the name of like age group. So it's going to just create a new table, and here you can see we have like all of these ages right here, and we have all of these people right here. So if age is less than 30, so we are now getting the young, and if age is greater than or equal to 30 or 35, so we are now getting the middle age right here. Okay, and if age is like more than that, so for that we are getting these seniors right here. Okay, so this is how you're going to be creating a separate table, and this is how you're going to be providing your own conditions and all of that. So yeah, that was it about for the case statement in MySQL. Now let's talk about our first constraint, which is a unique. So unique constraint is used to ensure that all the values in the column or a group of column are unique, meaning no two rows can have the same values in the specified column. This constraint is commonly used to enforce the data integrity and prevent the duplicate entries. So yeah, that was our first one. So I'm going to just delete every single thing from here, and I'm going to be just creating a new table. So let me just zoom in a bit right here, and let's just create our table. I'm going to just give it the name of like series, and inside there we are going to be first of all providing the ID, which will be the integer and auto increment, and we're going to be also passing our primary key right here. And now let me just go back, and we're going to be passing the title of varchar, and varchar will be 255. And now let's use our unique constraint right here. Okay, so once I use that, then we are going to be using like release year, and release year was like integer, and we also have a genre, and the genre will be varchar of, I don't know, maybe 255 or something like that. And now let me just execute this. So let me just execute that right away. Oh, I just created that. So what, let's just drop the table of this series. Let me just remove that, and now let me just execute that one more time. And that's because I'm now re-recording this value one more time. So yeah, now let me just insert some sort of a data to that. So we are going to be using like insert into this series. Let's just copy that and place it right here, and remove that from here. And we're going to be inserting a data like title and release year, and also the genre right here. Okay, so we're going to be adding values to this data. So we're going to be using like values, and first of all I'm going to be providing like stranger Ching Stranger Thing 2066 was the year, and it was a science fiction. Okay, and now I'm going to just provide a comma here, and now let me just add maybe a game of Thrones, and it was released I guess in 2011. Not I guess, but I just quick Google search that. And fantasy, come on, FANTASY, if I can type that today. And now let me just provide a comma, and now let me just duplicate this line of code and remove this comma from the end. And here you can see we have a duplicate titles right here, and for the title we specified that as a unique. So let's just see what's gonna happen. We already created our table, but now let me just execute that, and here you can see we are now getting that duplicate entry Game of Thrones for the key series dot title. That's not gonna fly here, baby. You gotta do something about that. So now let me just comment this line out. Maybe I'm gonna just add a few more movies or series. So I'm gonna just copy that, and now let me just place it right here, and now let me just uncomment that. So what are we doing? We are now inserting these data. So we have this title which is unique, these are this title which is also unique, and also this one. Okay, so it will totally work, but not the same because we are now passing this constraint right here. So now let me just execute that, and once I do, and here you can see if I just select every single thing from the, what was the table name? Yeah, series. So we have a series right here, and now let me just execute that, and here you can see we have like all of this data right here which will totally work. So yeah, that was our unique constraint. Now let's talk about the check constraint, and the check constraint is used to specify a condition that must be met for the data in a column. Okay, so as the name suggests, that check, so we are going to be working with the check. So what I want to do is that I want to remove every single thing once again, and let me just create a new table, and I'm going to just give it the name of like employee, and inside there we are going to be passing like employee ID, which will be the integer, and primary key. And now let me just also pass the employee name, which will be the varchar, and we are going to be just passing 50 characters. And now let me just provide the employee age, which will be in the check. Okay, so we are going to be passing this check constraint, like the employee age will be integer, and now we are going to be passing like employee then age is greater than equal to 18. If that's the case, so what do you want to do? And then we are going to be providing the and Okay, the employee age is less than or equal to 69. So we only want to accept those employees not greater than or not less than that. Okay, so now let me just provide an employee salary, and we are going to be just passing like decimal. And now let's just pass 10 and also the 2 for the decimal. And now let's just provide our check. And now let me just provide a check. So we are going to be checking like employee salary is greater than or equal to 0 right here. Okay, so this is how we are going to be checking our employee, or we are going to be passing our own check constraint. So we are going to be passing like if the employee age is greater than or equal to 18 and the employee age is less than or equal to 65, so then it's going to work. Otherwise it's not going to work. Okay, so then we have a salary, and it's going to be decimal, and we are now passing the check, and here you can see we are now just passing like employee salary is going to be greater than or equal to 0. Okay, so now let's just create that. And first of all, let me just write a comment like come on, let me just write a comment like this should succeed. Okay, SUCCEED. This should succeed. And why is that? I'm going to show you why is that. So let's just insert into the employee table, and we're going to be providing the employee first of all ID, and we don't have to do that, but yeah, I am providing that. And now let me just provide the employee name, and now let me provide the employee age and also the employee salary right here. Okay, so now let me just insert values to that. So first of all, we are going to be passing the ID of 1, then we are going to be providing some sort of a name. So in my case, I'm going to just pass like HuXn in my case, and now we are going to be passing like 25 for the age, and I'm going to just 25. I am 25-year old. So now let me just provide some sort of a lot of money right here. Okay, so yeah, this should be succeed. So now let me just execute that. And now if I just use like select every single thing from the employee table, and now let me just see there, and here you can see we have the HuXn, we have the employee age, and also the salary right here. And why is that? Because here we checked out all of these checkpoint right here, like we have the age is greater than or equal to 18. So yeah, the age is greater than 18 right here. And now the next one we have employee age is less than 65. Yeah, 25 is less than 65. And then we have employee salary, and the employee salary should be greater than or equal to 0. So yeah, it is greater than and not equal to 0. So that's why all of their checkpoints are now checked. So that's why this should be succeed. Okay, so you know what, let me just write another comment right here, and I'm gonna just say like this should fail due to the edge constraint right here. So now let me just show you the edge constraint, and I guess I'm gonna just remove the should I remove the yeah, I guess I'm gonna just drop the table of employee, and now let me just recreate that, because we are now just what do we call it because we are now rechecking that. So now let me just create this table once again, and now let's just provide a new value to that. So we are going to be just inserting every single thing. So I'm going to copy that, and now let me just place it right here, and now let me just add some values to that. So we are going to be using like values, and now let me just provide the ID of 2 in this case, and the bro name will be Bob, and he will be 16-year old. And now let me just provide a lot of like this amount of money, and now let me just execute this line of code, and here you can see we are now getting that check constraint employee and CHK-1 is violated, and we don't know what the hell this is. That's because we are not specifying a specific name for our check constraint. We are going to be doing that a bit later, but not right now. But here you can see they are now telling us that some of the constraints are now violated, and you shouldn't be doing that. And we are now doing that because we specify the age of 16 right here, and the age is neither 18, like neither greater than or equal to 18 nor less than 65. Okay, so that's why it will not work. So I'm going to comment, I'm not going to even comment there. So now let me just provide a comma here, or maybe I'm going to just execute that. I want to show you that this should fail due to the salary constraint. Okay, so I'm going to copy this line of code one more time, and now let me just place that right in here. Okay, let's just cut that from here, and now let me just add some values to that. So I'm going to be adding like user 3, and his name will be Charlie, and I'm going to be passing the age of 30, and now let me just add like minus 1000.00 something like that. So now let me just execute that, and here you can see we are now getting that check constraint employee CHK2, like check 2 is violated. So what is the check 2? And check 2 is the second check right here. Like we have the employee salary is greater than or equal to 0, and here we are now violating that rule by providing a minus right here. That's why we are now getting this error right here. But that's not useful error. Like, yeah, we cannot understand like what the hell is this employee chk2. We cannot understand that, but for that we are going to be learning about the name constraint. So what is the name constraint? When we create a check constraint, MySQL automatically comes up with the name, but we can also assign our own name to our constraint using the constraint keyword when creating or altering the table. We did not learn about altering the table, which we are going to be learning very soon. This allows you to provide a meaningful name to the constraint, which can be useful for identifying and managing constraint in your database. Okay, so now let's just learn about that. So you know what, I'm going to remove every single thing from there, and I'm going to just start from scratch by removing first of all or dropping my table of employees or employees. So now let me just execute that. So everything is now successfully gone, and we are going to be recreating our table one more time. So let's just create our employee, and inside the employee, and now inside there, first of all, we are going to be providing our IDs, which will be like integer and primary key. And yeah, now the next one we have is the employee name, which will be a varchar. And now let me just specify like 50 characters to that. And now let me just provide the employee age, which will be the integer. Let me just do that in uppercase. And now you have to specify the employee salary, which will be the decimal. And now let me just provide 10 and 2 one more time. Let's just provide a comma here. And now let me just provide like chk employee age, like check employee age, and we're going to be using like check. And now let me just use like employee age is greater than or equal to 18, and let me just provide an employee age is less than or equal to 65. Okay, so now let me just go back, but that's not something that we want here. If you want to give a specific name for our check constraint, so for that we are going to be using like constraint, that constraint result keyword right here. Then it's going to take this name right here. Okay, so I'm going to show you that in a few seconds. So now let me just use like constraint one more time and check employee salary. In this case, you can just provide a check, or you can just write like I'm gonna just go with the shorthand, which is a chk. And now let me just provide like check, and now let me use like employee salary is greater than or equal to 0. Okay, so the rest of them will be totally the same. And now let me just create this table. Okay, so I'm going to execute that. So that's totally done. And now let me just provide my few cases or test cases, which will be this should succeed like that. And now let me just use like insert into the employee table. And now let me just provide a column name. So we have an employee ID, then we have the employee name, then we have the employee age, and then we have the employee salary like that. Now underneath that, we are going to be passing the value. So we have like one for the ID, we have, I don't know, maybe like Jordan as the name, and we have 25 as the age, and we have like a lot of money right here, so which will totally work. So now if I execute that, and if I see like select every single thing from the employees table, and let's just close it right here. So now let me just execute that. So here you can see it's gonna work totally just fine because all of the constraints are now checked. But I'm going to first of all drop the table of employee one more time, execute there, remove there from here. And now let me just put a bit of separate right here. Oh, you know, I don't even have to do that. And this should fail due to the edge constraint. Okay, so now we are going to be just providing something which will just violate the rule of the edge. So now let me just copy and paste that, and we are going to be inserting the values of, first of all, the ID will be set to 2, and then the name will be set to Bob, and the age will be set to 16, and I don't know, maybe a lot of money would be fine. And now let me just execute that. So it's going to give us that the table employee doesn't exist. So yeah, first of all we have to create that. And now let me just click on that. So here you can see it's going to give us that check constraint chk employee age. So where in the world is this coming from? This is coming from here, right here. Okay, so we have like chk employee age, and you can like totally specify like check employee age, or you can also just write like employee age table. You can give it any name you like, but in my case I just give it these two names right here. So that's why we are now getting like check constraint of chk employee age right here is violated. So this is how we are going to be getting the first one. And now let me just close there. And now let me just write some other comment like this should, come on, this should fail due to, come on, due to salary constraint. Constraint, come on, Constraint, maybe whatever, I don't care about the spellings. But now let me just copy there, and now let me just place it right here and provide a lot of values to that. So we are going to be just writing like 3 for the ID and Charlie as the name, and 30 will be for the age, and minus a lot of money, but it will be in the negative form. Okay, so now if I if I execute this, it's going to give us that check constraint chk employee salary in this case is violated. So yeah, this is how we are going to be working with what do we call it, our check constraint, and this is how we are going to be adding a name for our constraints. All right, so now let's talk about the altering the table. So what do I mean by that? Alter table statement is used to add, modify, or drop a column constraint or indexes in an existing table. It allows you to change the structure of your table without having to drop and recreate that. So as we learned a few seconds ago that I was inserting some sort of a data and I had to delete my table, but we don't have to do that no more. Why is that? That's because of the alter table. Okay, so how that's gonna look like? So we can just add a new column, we can drop a new column, we can modify existing column, like for example changing the data type of that. We can also rename our existing data type, and so on and so forth. So you know what, let me just show you the first one, which is we are going to be first of all writing alter table and then the table name, and then we are going to be using the add result keyword and then the column name and then the data type. Okay, so it's going to allow us to add a new column to our existing table. So this is how we are going to be adding a new column. And now if you want to remove that, so once again we are going to be using like alter table result keywords, then we are going to be using the table name, then we have to use the drop result keyword and then the column and then the column name. Okay, so it's going to allow us to remove the existing table, like existing column from our table. And now the next one we have is like how we are going to be modifying something inside our existing table. Let's suppose if you want to change the data type of that, so for that we are going to be using like alter table and then the table name, and we are going to be using the modify result keyword and then the column and then the column name, and then we can specify a new data type to that if you wanted to. Okay, so this is how we are going to be doing that. And now the next one we have is like how we are going to be renaming an existing column. Okay, so first of all we are going to be using like alter table and then the table name, then we have to use the change result keyword, then we have to use the column result keyword, then we have to specify the old column name, and then once we do that, then we have to specify the new column name and then the data type. Okay, so this is how we are going to be doing all of that. So now let me just show you that in action. So what I want to do is that I want to remove every single thing from there. Let's just remove that, and I'm going to even drop this table right here. So I'm going to be using like drop table of employees or something like that. Execute that and remove that from here. Okay, so I'm going to recreate that, and now let's just start from the scratch. Okay, so first of all I want to see like select, come on, select every single thing from the employee table right here. And now if I click on the execute, and here you can see, oh, we don't have anything inside there. We don't have anything inside there. So I guess I'm gonna have to go back a few times, and yeah, I guess that much will be fine. And I'm gonna just remove that much, and I'm gonna even remove this one, or you know, let me just execute there. And now let me just select every single thing from here. So here you can see we have like this column, we have the employee ID, then we have the employee name, then we have the employee age, and we also have the employee salary right here, which is looking supremely amazing. But now let's suppose if you want to drop one of the column from this existing one, so how in the world we are going to be doing that? Let's suppose if you want to remove this one right here, let's suppose if you want to remove this employee salary table from this why am I saying table? Let's just say that once again. Let's suppose if I'm removing, or if I want to remove this employee salary column from this existing table, so how in the world we are going to be doing that? Well, to do that, let's just yeah, I'm gonna just remove that from here. And to do that, first of all we are going to be using the alter table result keyword. This is going to be ALTER, alter table result keyword. Then we have to specify the table name, which is in this case employee right here. Then if you want to remove something from there, so we are going to be first of all specifying the drop result keyword, then the column and then the employee, like, yeah, emp and salary, because we want to remove this one, not the rest of them. So that's why we are now just specifying this employee salary right here. Let me just show you there. And here you can see we have this employee salary, if I can get there. And now what I want to do is that if I execute this line of code, and now if I want to check, like select every single thing from the employees, from the employees, and now if I execute there, and here you can see we have everything except we don't have the employee salary. Okay, so we have the ID, we have the employee name, and we also have the employee age, but we no longer have the employee salary. There we go. So this is how we are going to be removing the existing column from our database. So yeah, that's there. And now let's suppose if you want to change something, like maybe if you want to change the employee name, which you can see right here. So we have like employee name. So if you want to change that from the existing table, so how in the world we are going to be doing that? So to do that, I'm going to just remove that. So I want you to keep in mind that first of all, we are going to be writing this alter table, then the table name, and then we have to just specify modify modify. And then we have a column, and then we just have to write the employee name, and it's going to be equals to the varchar. And now let's just specify 255 characters right here. Then so what are we doing? Like currently we are only changing the data type of this employee name. So here you can see currently our employee name is now set to varchar and 50 characters right here, which you can also see that, by the way. So we have the varchar of 50 characters right here. And now if you wanted to change that to like varchar of 255, so this is how we are going to be doing that. First of all, we are going to be writing like modify column, and then the specific column name, and then the data type like which you want to change. So now let me just execute that, and now let me just execute this query. So here you can see our employee name will be now set to varchar, and it is now set to 255 characters right here. So this is how we are going to be modifying the existing behavior of our table. So yeah, that's cool. But finally I wanted to show you just one thing, like how in the world we are going to be changing something inside our table. So let's suppose instead of giving this name like employee name, if I want to give it the name of like full name, so how in the world we are going to be doing that? I'm going to just remove that. And once again, I want you to keep in mind that first of all, we are going to be using like alter table, then we have to specify the table name. And now in this case, I'm going to be using like change not name but change column. And now we have to select the old one, so we have the employee name, and then we have to specify a new name for that. Like in my case, I'm going to be providing like full name. And now let me just specify the data type, which will be varchar and 50 characters right here. Okay, so now let me just show you there. So we have the employee name, and the varchar is now set to 255, and now we are just setting there to like full name, and the varchar is now set to 50 characters. So now let me just execute that and execute this query. So here you can see we are now getting the full name instead of, what do we call it, instead of the employee name, we are now getting the full name right here. So yeah, this is how we are going to be altering the table. So we learn about how we are going to be modifying something, how we are going to be deleting the existing or dropping the existing column from our table, and we also learn about how we are going to be changing the existing column inside our table. Alright guys, so now let's talk about the relationship in MySQL. So a database relationship refers to how the data in one table is connected to the data in another table. And this connection is what makes MySQL as a relational database management system, or RDBMS, is something that we have discussed in the beginning of the course. And I said that you don't have to worry about that for now, but we are going to be learning about that later in this course. And now is later. Okay, so now we are finally learning about the relationship in MySQL. So yeah, that's just a quick definition of what a relationship is. But now let's talk about how many types of relationships we have in MySQL. So we have one-to-one, we have one-to-many, and we also have many-to-many. Okay, so now let's start from the first one, which is the one-to-one relationship. So a one-to-one relationship occurs when a single record, and the keyword is a single record, in one table corresponds to exactly one record in another table. Okay, so let me just say that once again, and I want you to please bear with me. So relationship occurs when a single record in one table corresponds to exactly one record in another table, and it essentially establishes a unique link between two data points. And you know what, I know that's a lot of theory, but now let me just give you a real world example. So here you can see we have two tables right here. So we have a user table and we also have a settings table right here, and inside this user table we have the ID, name, country and favorites, and then we have a settings table right here, and then we have ID once again, and then we have an email, password and user ID right here. And now the question is, if you want to make both of these tables in a relationship, or I don't know, if you want to make it as a one-to-one relationship or one-to-many or many-to-many relationships, so for that we are going to be using a foreign keys. So what are foreign keys? We are going to be discussing that in just a few seconds, but first of all let me just discuss this analogy. So here you can see we have all of this information about this specific user, and if you want to connect that with this setting, so we just learned that the relationship occurs when a single record, in this case what will be the single record? In this case we have this ID which will be a primary key, so we are going to be connecting this single record. Why is that? Because this is going to be totally unique. Okay, so we are going to be connecting this single record with this user ID. So if we connect that by using something called a foreign keys, so then we are going to be getting something called a one-to-one relationship. Okay, so I know if it sounds a bit confusing, so don't worry, I'm going to explain that in a few seconds. But now let me mention one thing, that one-to-one relationship is not that much useful. Like, I never find myself ever like using one-to-one relationship. I don't know if that's going to be useful for you or not. So that was a one-to-one relationship in the theory, and we are not going to be writing any code for that because yeah, it's going to just make you confused and you will never find yourself using this one-to-one relationship like ever. So now let's talk about the most useful one, which is a one-to-many relationship. But before we getting into the one-to-many relationship, all I want to discuss there, what in the world are foreign keys. And as I said, that if you want to connect more than one table, so for that we are going to be using a foreign keys. But now let's discuss what in the world are a foreign key. So a foreign key is like a label that connects one table's data to another table data, and it ensures that a value in one table exists in another table's column. Okay, so this is how we are going to be using that. Like, let's suppose we have this ID, we have this user in this settings, and if you want to connect both of them, or if you want to make a relationship between both of these tables, so for that we are going to be using these foreign keys. But now finally let's talk about the main point of this video, which is the one-to-many relationship. So one-to-many relationship is a way to structure your database table to represent a scenario where a single record in one table can be linked with, in this case, multiple records in another table. In one-to-one relationship, as we just saw, that a single record in one table correspond to exactly one record in another table. But now in the what do we call a one-to-many relationship, it will represent a scenario where a single record in one table can be linked to multiple records in another table. And it is just a fundamental concept in relational database system or design, whatever you want to call this. So I know I'm repeating myself again and again because these stuff are hard. You cannot learn that by just watching this video right now. I know I'm going to give you a lot of examples, but I'm repeating myself because I want you to understand the definition of one-to-one and one-to-many and many-to-many and all of these relationships. So how that's going to look like? This is how it looks like right here. So here you can see we would have like some sort of a engineer table, and we would have a lot of engineers, but I want you to imagine that we have some sort of a full stack engineer. And you and I both know that a full stack engineer is like Superman. He can do every single thing. Like, he can do the task of UI, UX. He can also create a mockups. He can also make a prototypes. He can also make a responsive design. He can also make changes to the existing design. But on the other hand, not only that, he can also do the coding for the UI, for the backend. He can also do testing. He can also implement the architecture. He can also take care of the performance. He can also design the database and all of that. So here you can see we have one person and he can do multiple tasks or multiple things. So this is what we call the one-to-many relationship. So we have one and we have a many relationship. So I know I'm just eating your brain, but first of all let me just write some code and then you will get to know what I'm talking about. So I'm going to give you that exactly the same analogy which I just gave you. So first of all we are going to be creating, let me just let me just zoom in a bit. So we are going to be creating a table of engineer. So we have an engineer, and inside this engineer we are going to have like some sort of an engineer ID first of all, and this is going to be an integer and auto increment, and it is going to be a primary key, which means like this is going to be totally a unique key. Then we have an engineer name, and it's going to be a varchar, and we're going to be providing like 255, and it is not going to be null, so which means that this is not going to be empty. Then we have a profession, like which kind of thing this specific user can do. Is he a front-end developer, back-end developer, full stack developer, UI UX architect, or what is his profession or her profession? So we're going to be just writing there, and it is going to be a varchar. Let me just write there, varchar, and we're going to be specifying 255 and not null. And now underneath that we're going to be also providing some sort of an email, which will be a varchar once again, and let me just provide a 50 right here. And now let me just close there, and I'm going to just execute there. And table engineer already exists because I already recorded this video. So let me just drop the table, come on, drop the table of engineer, and I'm going to just execute there. And now let me just make that as a side by side so you guys can see everything a bit better. And we just successfully drop our engineers table, and now let me just recreate there. So that's cool. Now the next thing which I want to do is that I also want to create a task. So we are going to be just create a table of task, and now inside there we are going to be first of all providing a task ID, which will be integer, also the auto increment, and also the primary key. Let me just write a primary key and provide a comma here. And now the next thing which I want to do is that I also want to provide some sort of name for our task, which will be like a varchar of 255 characters. And now let me just provide a task description, description like that, and it should be just a text data type. And now let me just provide an engineer, come on, the engineer ID right here, and it's going to be integer. Let me just provide the integer. So like, what's the point of this engineer ID if we already have that right here inside this engineer? So we already learned about the primary key, and we know that primary key makes our column totally unique. Okay, so inside this engineer table, this is going to be some sort of a badge for our user or engineer. Like once we take that specific person as an engineer in our company, so for that we are going to be specifying some sort of a badge or some sort of a ID for that. Okay, so now if you want to assign some sort of a task for that, so we have a task ID. Okay, so this is going to be totally unique, and we already know that because we are now specifying this primary key right here, and this is going to be totally unique. So we are going to be just writing like, for this specific user who have some specific ID, like I don't know, maybe 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or something like that. So we also have a specific task for that specific user. So that's why we are now writing this engineer ID right here. Okay, so we have like, I don't know, if we have some sort of a engineer like I don't know, maybe 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or something like that. So we are going to be assigning this specific task for this specific engineer. So that's why we are now rewriting this engineer ID right here. So now let me just close that, or let me just cut that from here, and I'm going to just close that, and I'm not going to be connecting both of these tables right now because I want to first of all show you something. Okay, so now let me just execute this one. So that's successfully working. So now underneath that I'm going to be just inserting some sort of a data. So I'm going to just write like insert, insert into the engineer table, and we're going to be specifying the engineer name first of all, and then we are going to be providing some sort of a profession for the engineer, and then the email. Okay, so now underneath that we are going to be also providing some sort of a values to that. So we would have a lot of engineers. So now let me just provide a bit of spacing right here, and let me just add like, I don't know, Alice Johnson, come on. Alice Johnson, and he is going to be like a full stack engineer, and we would also have some sort of an email for him like aj@gmail.com. Now let me just provide a comma, and I'm going to just add a few more engineers. So now let me just duplicate that, and I'm going to just remove that, and we have a Bob Smith, and he is going to be like, I don't know, maybe a backend engineer or something like that, and we are going to be also just writing like bobsmith@gmail.com. And now we have like, I don't know, maybe Charlie Brown or something and he is going to be just a front engineer. So we are going to be just writing like front end engineer, and we are going to be just writing like or CHB or OW Charlie Brown or something like that. Now let me just go back, and we're going to be inserting all of their engineers, or you know what, I'm not going to insert that, not right now. Now the next thing which I want to do is that I also want to insert some sort of a data for this task. So we are going to be just writing this task, and now let me provide a task name and then the task description and also the engineer ID, like for which engineer we are going to be specifying that specific task. Okay, so what I want to do is that I want to just assign a few values right here. Okay, so now let me just provide a bit of indentation, and I'm going to just provide like task 1, and I don't know, design the UI in Figma or something like that. And now the next thing which you have to do is that we have to specify some sort of a ID for that. So we are going to be just writing like ID of 1, and now let me just provide a comma, and I'm going to just duplicate there, and we have like, I don't know, task 2 and task 3, and now let me just remove that, and we are going to be just writing like build, I don't know, build the server in Bun or Bun.js, or I guess Bun would be fine. And now we are going to be just writing like we are going to be assigning this specific task for the engineer 2, and now let me just remove that. So I'm going to just write like code the UI in Tailwind CSS or something like that. So like we're going to be still like for this engineer 1 we're going to be assigning this task 1, and for this engineer 1 we are going to be also assigning this task 3, which will be code the UI in the Tailwind CSS. Okay, so now this engineer 1 is doing multiple things. So we have like task 3 and we also have task 1, and this engineer 2 is only doing this one task right here. So you know, let me just remove this comma from here, and I'm going to just insert this data right here. So I'm going to just click on that. We are now successfully adding these 3 users. So we have a user with the ID of 1, user with the ID of 2, and user with the ID of 3. For this Charlie Brown, we are not even specifying any work, like no task, nothing for him. But for this what do we call it, for this Alice Johnson, we are now attaching 2 tasks. So we want him to design the UI in Figma, and we also want him to like make the UI in the Tailwind CSS for the user 2, who is the backend engineer. So we only want him to like make some sort of a server in the Bun or something like that. You can also write Express.js if you wanted to, or something like that. So now let me just execute that. So everything is working totally okay, like we are not getting any errors, nothing like that. So I'm going to just write like select every single thing from the user, not a users but the engineer, and once I do that and execute that, so here you can see, as you imagine, that everything will work totally fine. So we have like engineer 1, 2, 3, we have the names of the engineer, we have the profession, and also the emails. And if we just search for, I don't know, tasks, and now let me just execute them, and here you can see we are now getting like task 1, 2, 3, and here you can also see that we are now attaching or assigning their specific task for their specific user. So we have like engineer ID right here, and we are adding like this task 1 for this specific user, this task 2 for this second user, and then this task 3 which will be the same task, and we are adding that for this first user, and that Charlie Brown is not doing anything. So yeah, that's cool. But what I want to show you is that I'm going to just drop both of the table once again. So we are going to be dropping like I don't know, engineers, and now let me just execute that. So engineer is gone, and now let me just also drop the task table once again. Okay, so now we are going to be dropping that. So now let me just recreate that, and I want to show you something. So now if I execute that, so here you can see engineer table is now successfully created, and now if I execute this one, so tasks are now successfully created. And now if I execute this one, so I want you to keep in mind that we have only 3 users right here, only these 3 users right here. So we have Alice Johnson, we have Bob Smith, and also Charlie Brown, which also means that this user will have the ID of 1, this user will have the ID of 2, and this user will have the ID of 3. But what I want to do is that if I just duplicate this line of code, and now let me provide my comma, and here what I want to do is that, let's suppose if I want to attach this specific task for the 10th user, which we don't have inside our table and not in our entire database. So I'm going to just write like task 10 or something like that, and I'm going to just write like, I don't know, E to E testing or something like that. And I want you to notice one thing. If I execute that, nothing happened. and inside our table we don't even have the user with the ID of 10. So what's going on? Well, first of all, it's going to create this table, and then it's going to create this table, and now we are inserting these engineers data. I mean, like, we are inserting all of that data for this specific engineer table, and then we are adding all of that data for this specific task, which also means that both of these tables, like the engineer and also the task table, are not connected, like they are not in the relationship. That's why we can totally do that. Like, you are talking about the 10, I can even also add like the 100 user, or the 1000 user, or the million, or something like that user. This is totally valid. Why is that? Because both of these tables are totally separate than each other. They are not in the relationship. So that's why if we add any data or any user or any task, that's going to be totally added for this specific task table. Why is that? Because this is totally separate, and we are now providing, I mean, like, here you can see we are now specifying all of that data, we are now requiring all of that data, we are now providing all of that data. So that's why if you just specify like 1 millionth user, we can totally do that. On the other hand, let me just finally drop this table, and let me just show you there for the final time, like how we are going to be making them in the relationship. So now let me just drop the table of engineers first of all. So I'm going to just execute there and drop this table, and then we are going to be also dropping the task table as well. And now let me just execute there. So both of these tables are now successfully gone. So now finally, if you want to make, or if you want to join both of these tables, not join is other word which we are going to be learning in a few seconds, but if you want to make both of these tables, like we have an engineer and we also have this task table in the relationships, so what do you have to do to make them in the relationship? And to make them in the relationship, for that, you guessed it, we are going to be using the foreign keys. So now let me just write a foreign, and then let me just write a key right here, and then we are going to be executing that. Here we have to specify by which column we want to attach or make a relationship with this engineer table. To put it in a simple word, I'm gonna just say that for which engineer we want to attach a specific task. Okay, so we are going to be grabbing this engineer ID, and I'm going to copy that, and now let me just place that right here. And now the next thing which we have to do is that we have to just write like reference, we write that, and then we are going to be writing the next table in which we want to make this existing table in the relationship. So the table name in my case is this engineer, so I'm going to copy that, and now let me just place that right here, and I'm going to just execute that. And now here we are going to be searching for something unique, or you can just search for a unique, or you can also say that we are going to be searching for something by which we want to make a relationship. Okay, so we are going to be making a relationship based on this engineer ID right here. So here you can see we have this engineer ID right here, and this is a primary key, which means that this is going to be totally unique. So that's why we would be totally able to make a relationship based on that. So now let me just provide that. And that's it, baby. That's it. That's every single thing that we have to do to make both of that table in the relationship. So now this is what we call the one-to-many relationship. We can have one user or one engineer who can do multiple tasks. Okay, so you know what, let me just execute that and show you in action. So here you can see if I execute that, so this table is created. If I execute this one, so this table is created. And now if you want to just make like 3 users, so we are going to be inserting that 3 users. And now here you can see we don't have this 10th user right here. So watch what happened. If I execute that, and it's going to give us an error. It's going to say that cannot add or update a child row, a foreign key constraint fail. Like, you cannot do that. Like, this user is not inside your table. You don't even have this ID inside your table. You cannot do that. This is a big no-no. You're gonna have to have some sort of a user. Why am I saying user? What the hell? You're gonna have to have some sort of an engineer. Then you're going to be assigning some sort of a task for him or her. Okay, so I'm going to just comment this line out, and now let me just remove this comma from here. And now if I execute that, and so here you can see everything is now working totally fine. So I can just use like select every single thing from the users. Why am I saying users? What the hell? Engineers table. And now let me just show you there. So everything is working totally fine, and we can also just write like task right here. And now if I execute there, and here you can see we have all of their tasks which are assigned for these specific users right here. Okay, so yeah, that's that, and that was the one-to-many relationship in MySQL. Alright, so now that we know what in the world are one-to-many relationship, but now let's talk about something called the join. So like we know that both of these tables are in the relationship, but how can we tell? And to tell, so for that we are going to be using something called the join. So first of all, I'm going to be explaining the most awful one. I shouldn't have to say awful one, but the least useful join, so which is called the cross join. So I want you to just keep this name in mind, but not the or if you want to keep in mind, so yeah, this is totally completely okay, but I guess you will never find yourself using a cross join like ever, and you will know that in a few seconds. So what in the world is a cross join? So a cross join is the type of join operation that combines each row from one table with every row from another table, and it essentially creates a new result set containing all possible combination of the rows from the joined table. And I know it sounds a bit confusing, but you know what, let me just write some code and then you will get to know what I'm talking about. So first of all, we are going to be selecting every single thing from the engineer table, and then we're going to be using like a cross and then join, and which table you want to join with this engineer table, and we want to just join the task table. And now I'm going to just execute that and watch what happened. And here you can see we are getting a lot of data. And that's not a lot of data. We are now just repeating ourselves. So we have like 3 to 1, then we have like 3 to 1 and 3 to 1 like 3 times right here. But what you can see is that it successfully joined both of our table, and now we can totally tell that both of our tables are now in the relationships. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about that I want you to focus on this table right here. So first of all, you would have some sort of an engineer table, and we would have like the engineer name, I mean like engineer ID, the engineer name, then the engineer profession, and also the engineer email. But here you can also see that we have all of the data from the task table as well. So we have like the task, I mean like the task ID, then we have the task name and also a task description, and also the task ID or the engineer ID who will be doing their specific task. But the bad thing about this join is that it is just repeating itself again and again. Okay, so that's the first syntax, and I'm gonna just comment this line out, and I'm gonna just write like select every single thing from the engineer table, and we don't have to write this cross join. We can just write like a comma, and then let's just write another table name which is a task. So now if I execute there, and here you can see both of the results will be totally the same. So we have first of all the engineer table, and then we have the task table right here, and both of them are now successfully joined by using the cross join method. So now let me just comment there, and that was the first one. And now let me just hit enter right here, and the next join we have is the inner join. So the inner join selects the record that have the matching values on both the table. So it's going to search for the engineer table, and it's going to also search for the task table if it found the match values on both of these tables. So it's going to give us that results, and if it not, then it's going to give us nothing. So you know what, let me just write like select every single thing from the engineer table, and then we are going to be using the inner, and then we are going to be using the join. And now the next thing which you have to do is that we have to write the next table which you want to join. So we are going to be using like task, and we are going to be also using like on, and by which specific ID or by which specific thing you want to join that table. So we are going to be writing this engineer first of all. So let me just write this ENGINER engineer, and then we're going to be writing this dot. And if I use the dot, so here you can see we have the email, the engineer ID, the engineer name, the profession. So I'm only interested in this ID, so I'm going to just choose there, and it's going to be equals to, and then the next table which you want to join. Now let me just write a dot. So here you can see we have the engineer ID, we have a task description and task ID, task name, and I'm only interested in this engineer ID, so I'm going to just choose there. And now if I execute there, and it's going to search in both of the table, and if it found the matching values, so it's going to only gives us that matching values right here. Okay, so here you can see this is all of the information about the engineer table, and this is all of the information about the task table right here. Okay, so the matching values are like, so here you can see we have this task ID or this specific task which was assigned to this Alice Johnson, who is a full stack engineer, and this is his email. And yeah, this task 3 was also assigned to this Alice Johnson user. And then finally we have this Bob Smith right here, and it will totally ignore this Charlie Brown right here because we didn't even specify any task for him. So that's why it will totally ignore the Charlie Brown right here. Okay, so yeah, this is what an inner join is. And you know what, let me just hit enter right here, and I'm gonna just show you something else about the inner join. Or you know, let me just duplicate this line of code. So we have this code once again. We can also provide an alias for the engineer and also for the task. So like we don't have to no longer write this engineer and also this task again and again. We can just also write, like for engineer we can write a E, a lowercase e or uppercase e, and then I'm gonna also write a space, and then I'm gonna just write like T for the task user for the task table. And now I can totally remove this engineer and I can replace it with a E, and I can also totally remove the task and I can just replace it with this T right here. Okay, so this is how we are going to be attaching an alias or a new name, whatever you want to call that. And now if I execute that, so here you can see it's going to still gives us that same result right here. So we have both of these table and they are now joined with each other. So that was the next example, and now I guess I'm going to just duplicate that one more time, and I want to show you that we are not limited to grab every single thing. We can just like grab a specific thing, like I don't know, maybe the engineer name. We can also get an email, we can also get the task name or something like that from the task table, and we can also get, like I don't know, maybe a task description or something like that. So let me just write it, come on, not text but task description or something like that. So we can like totally grab a specific thing or a specific column data from both of these tables. So now let me just execute that, and it's gonna only gives us that specific data. And here you can see we have an engineer's names, then we have the engineer's email, and then we have a task ID, or not ID but a task name, and we also have the task description right here. Okay, so we can totally grab a specific thing from our table. So that's there. And yeah yeah, that's there. But finally I want to show you one last thing, that we no longer have to also write this inner. We can totally remove this inner if you wanted to. So now let me just remove that, and we can just write a join. But it will look confusing for other engineers, but if you are writing this code you can totally remove this inner. But yeah, nothing harm on just providing this engineer. But if you want to remove that, if I just remove that and execute that, it will totally work and nothing is stopping you from doing that. And here you can see we have all of their specific information from both of these tables. And yeah, this is how we are going to be omitting the inner join right here. So now let's talk about the next one, which is called the left join. So now let me just provide these comments right here. So what in the world is a left join and why should you care about that? So a left join returns all the record from the left table. In this case our left table is the engineer table, and the match record from the right table, and now in this case the right table is the task table. So let me just say that once again, from the left table it's going to show us, or it's going to give us all the records, like all of the records. In this case our left table is the engineer, and here you can see the match records, like only the match records from the right table in this case, which will be the task. But if you didn't found anyone, so it's going to just give us the null right here. So first of all it's going to give us all of the data from the engineers table, and then it's going to only search for the match records from the task table, and if it found some of them, so it's going to only gives us that. But if it didn't found any of them, so it's going to only gives us null right here, and it's going to give us null for this what do we call it, for this Charlie Brown. And that's because we didn't even specify any data for him or any task for him. So now let me just write that. So we are going to be just writing like select every single thing from the engineers table, and now let me just rename that to like E. You don't have to do that, but I'm doing that because I like to do that. And then we are going to be just using, what do we call it, we are going to be using this left join. So now let me copy and paste that, and then we are going to be writing the next table, which will be the task, and I'm going to also rename that to like T. You don't have to do that. And then I'm going to just write like on, and we are going to be just writing this engineer table, and we are only interested in this engineer ID, and it's going to be equals to the task table, and we are only interested in this engineer ID. So now let me just execute that. And what in the world are we doing? So here you can see we have the engineer names right here. So it's going to give us every single thing from the left table, and in this case the left table is the engineer table, and it's going to only search for the match values. And if it found that match values, so it's going to give us all of that match values. But in this case it did not found the match value for the last user or the engineer, who is Charlie Brown, and that's because we didn't even specify any task for him. So that's why we are now getting the null right here. So it's going to give us every single thing no matter what from the left table, in this case engineer table, and it's going to only search for the match ones from the right from the right table, which is in this case the task table right here. And whew, that was a lot of talking. So now let's talk about the another one, which is called the right table, and this is going to be the final one. Not a table but the right join. So a right join returns, in this case once again, all the records from the right table, which is the task table in this case, and the match record from the left table, which is the engineer table in this case. If there are no matches, the result will be still once again totally no. Okay, so yeah, that was just the actual definition, and the syntax is like totally the same, but instead of writing a left, we are going to be just writing like the right. So select every single thing from the engineers table, and we want to just rename that to like E, and or you can say the alias for the engineer table is the E, and we are going to be just writing like right join. And now let's just provide a task, and it's going to be set to T. On the engineer table, we are only interested in the engineer ID, and for the task table we are also interested in this engineer ID. And now let me just execute that. So it's going to give us every single thing from the task table in this case, and it's not going to give us every single thing from the engineer table. It's going to only search for the specific one for the match one. If all of them are matched, so it's going to give us all of their data, but if all of them are not matched, so it's not going to give us nothing, so it's going to just give us no in this case for the engineer table. So that's why we are getting every single thing. And then for this task table, which is the right table, so we don't have anything empty, so that's why we are now getting all of their data right here. So yeah, that was all of the joins, and that was the, what do we call it, the one-to-many relationship in MySQL. So now that we learn about a one-to-many relationships, now let's talk about the many-to-many relationships, and this is going to be one of the easiest ones. So a many-to-many relationship in a MySQL arises when a single record in one table can be linked to multiple records in another table and vice versa. So now let me just give you a quick example of that. So here you can see we can have a lot of movies, we can have multiple movies, we can have many movies. Like for instance, we have the movie name of John Wick, we also have a Extraction, Deadpool 3, Aware, and millions of movies. And we can also have millions of people as well, they can watch that same movie. Okay, so here you can see we have like Alex user, we have a Jordan, we have a HuXn, we also have a Susan. But not only that, we can also have multiple or many comments as well. So if you want to combine all of their tables, so this is what we call a many-to-many relationship. So we can have a lot of movies, a lot of people can watch all of their movies or a lot of movies, and also a lot of people can also provide a lot of reviews, or in this case a comment. So yeah, I know I'm just eating your brain, but now let me just write some code, then you'll get to know what I'm talking about. So we just learned about a one-to-many relationship. So I'm going to just remove every single thing from there. And now let me just zoom in a bit. So the first thing which I want to do is that I want to create the table of movies, and I'm gonna just hit enter right here. And now let me just provide a movie ID, which will be the integer and primary key and not null, which means like we're not going to be leaving any of them totally empty. So now let me just provide an auto increment, and now underneath that we are going to be also providing some sort of a title, and the title will be a one-shot of 100 characters and not null. Okay, so this is going to be not null, like you cannot leave there empty. Now let me just provide a year, which will be the integer and not null as well. And now let me just provide a director. We don't have to do that, but I am doing that because I like to do that. Now let me provide a one-shot of 100 characters, and it's going to be not null. Okay, so that's that. Now let me also provide a genre, which will be the one-shot of 100 characters and not null, and that's going to be it for the movies. So now let me just execute that. So now movies are now successfully done. Now the next thing which I want to do is that I want to also create a persons table. So now let me just create the table of person. come on, person, and now inside there we are going to have some sort of a person ID. It's going to be integer, and also the primary key, not null, and also the auto increment, and we would have some sort of a name for the specific, so it's going to be 100 characters and not null. You cannot leave there totally empty. Now let me provide an edge for that. It's going to be integer, and now let me provide an email, and email will be a varchar of like 255 characters. Provide a comma here, and I'm going to just duplicate that like 3 times. So we have a genre, not a genre, but we have a gender, and we also have the country. Okay, so I'm going to just remove that comma from the end. And now let me just provide a comma, not a comma but semicolon right here. And now let me just create this table as well. So now both of the tables are now successfully created. And now the next thing which I want to do is that I want to create the final table, which will be for the comment. Okay, so now let me just create the table of comment. And now inside there we are going to be specifying the comment ID, which will be the integer, primary key, not null, auto increment. And now let me provide a comment content, like which kind of comment this should be. CONTENT, there we go. And it's going to be a text, not null, you cannot leave the empty. And we also have the movie ID, which will be the integer and not null. And now let me provide a comma, and I'm going to be also providing the person ID, which will be the integer, not null. And now let me just combine this table, this movies table, and also this person table with this comment table. So we already grab, or we already written all of their uniqueness. So we have like this movie ID, we also have the person ID right here. Okay, so based on this movie ID, we are going to be connecting this movies table right here, and based on this person ID, we are going to be connecting this person right here, like for which movie we are going to be leaving this comment, and who is the person which will be leaving this comment. And I hope it makes sense for you. And now we are going to be using a foreign key to connect both of them. So now let's just use like a foreign and then the key. And now let me just provide like a movie ID right here, which will be referencing in this case to the movies table. So now let me just write a movies, and which will be referencing to the movie ID. Okay, so that's then. Now let me provide a comma, and we're going to be using a foreign key one more time for the final time, and we're going to be connecting the person ID. Based on this person ID, we are going to be referencing to the person table right here. And now let me just connect that with the person ID right here. Okay, so I hope it makes sense for you. Let me just explain at least this table right here. So we are going to be connecting this comments table to the movies table and also to the person table based on the movie ID, and this movie ID will allows us to connect to the movies table, and then the person ID will allows us to connect to this person table right here. So which also means that we are going to be writing this comment for a specific movie, and a specific person is going to be writing this comment for a specific movie. That was a lot of talking. So now let me just execute that, and now let me just close that right here. And now finally let me just add a bit of data, and not a bit, I'm going to be adding a lot of data, and you can find all of that data in my GitHub repository. So I'm going to just write insert into the movies table. So we are going to be just inserting the title, the year, and the director, and also the genre of the movie. And now let me just insert a lot of values to that. So I'm going to just hit enter right here. And first of all, I'm going to be just adding this movie, which was the, come on, let me just write the Shawshank Redemption or something like this. So we have a Shawshank Redemption, or I can't even pronounce this name, Redemption. And it was made in the 1994, and of course this data is coming from the Google. And now let me just write a Frank, and yeah, whatever the director is, and the genre was drama. Okay, so now let me provide a comma here, and I'm going to be adding a lot of movies right here, and you can find all of their movies in my GitHub repository. If you also want to add all of their movies, you don't have to do that, but I'm showing you that. So I'm going to be adding all of their data right here. Okay, so let me just provide a multi-cursor, and let's just start working on that. And here you can see we now just added this movie, The Godfather, The Godfather 2, The Dark Knight, one of my favorite one, and 12 Angry Men. I never even watched the rest of the movies. I only watched The Godfather 1 and 2, and also The Dark Knight. Okay, so, and also the Fight Club as well. So now let me just execute that, and here you can see all of their data is now successfully added. And now the next thing which I want to do is that I want to also add a lot of data for the person as well. So I'm going to be adding a lot of people or a lot of persons to my table. So now let me just write a person right here. So we're going to be providing the name, age and email, gender, and also the country as well. And now underneath that, let's just provide a values to that. So first of all, Tom Hanks, and he is going to be, come on, HANKS, and he is going to be like 63 or something like that. And I'm going to just add like I don't know, Tom Hang@gmail.com or something like that as his email, and he is going to be a male for the gender, and he is going to be from the United States. And now let me just provide a comma here, and now let me add a lot more users in there. So I'm going to just copy that, and you can also copy all of that code from my GitHub repository if you wanted to. And now let me just place that right here. Let me do a multi-cursor selection, and if you guys don't know how to do a multi-cursor selection, so you should definitely watch my what do we call it, my VS Code course, which is totally free, and trust me, it's gonna change your life. And yeah, I mean it's gonna change your life, as I put my heart and soul into that course. So now let me just execute there, and all of that users are now successfully added to my table right here. And now the next thing which I want to do, or the final thing which I want to do, is that I want to insert a lot of comments. So I can just write like insert into the comment, and we are going to be providing the movie ID, like for which movie you want to leave a specific comment. And then we are going to be writing a person ID, like who is doing that comment. And now let me just write a comment content right here, and then we are going to be just adding some sort of a content. So now let me provide a values, and we have like one person for the, come on, the one ID for the movie, and then we have the one person which is inside our table. And I'm gonna just write like I really like come on, this movie or something like that. And I'm going to provide a comma here, and now let me just add a lot of movies right here, I mean like comment right here. You can find all of that comment in my GitHub repository once again. And yeah, we are just adding like 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 and 9, 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 and 9. And I really like this movie, I really like this movie, I really like this movie a lot of time. Ooh, and now let me just execute there, and here you can see everything is now working totally amazingly. And now I can use my joins to grab all of that data. So I can just use like select every single thing from I don't know, from the movies table. And yeah, I'm gonna just write an M right here, and now let me just write like a right join right here. And for the right join, we're going to be just writing like, I don't know, maybe some sort of a person, and I am going to just rename that to like P. And on the what do we call it, from the movies, we are going to be getting like the movie ID, and it's going to be equals to the P. And then we are going to be getting like some sort of a person ID right here. And now let me just execute that, and it's going to give us all of their data right here, and you can play around with all of their data. So we have a movies ID, then we have the title of the movies, then we have the years in which that movie was released, then we have the directors, and we also have the genre, the persons, the name, the age, the email, the gender, country, and all of that. Okay, so yeah, you can play around with this code by yourself if you wanted to. And I guess that was the end of the course. I'm not sure, but yeah, I feel like that's the end of the course. So now let's discuss the last part of this course, which is views. So what in the world are views, and why should you care about that? So a view is a virtual table that is based on the result set of the select query, and it allows you to store a saved query in the database, which can then be queried like a table. And view can simplify complex queries, hide complexity from the users, and provide a layer of abstraction over the underlying table. And I know that's a lot of theory, but what I want to do is that I want to remove every single thing from there. And now let's just create, or first of all, let me just drop my existing employee table. So we are going to be recreating that. We have an employee, and now let me just execute that. So we don't have any employee table right here. Now let me just remove that from here, and I'm going to be creating that employee table from scratch, employees. And now inside there, first of all, we are going to be providing the integer of primary key. And now I'm going to be also providing the first name for the employee, which will be the varchar of, I don't know, maybe 50 characters. And I'm going to be also providing a last name for the varchar, or for the employee. And then we are going to be also providing some sort of a department. And it's going to be a varchar of 50 characters as well. And now let me just provide a salary, and it's going to be a decimal data type. And now let me just provide 10 and 2 for the precision. And I'm going to just create this table right here. And now the next thing which I want to do is that I want to insert some sort of a data to this. So insert into the employee table, and we're going to be providing the ID and then the first name and then the last name and then the department and also the salary as well. And now underneath that, let me just provide some sort of a values to that. And now let me just hit enter right here. And the first thing which I want to do is that I want to provide the ID will be 1 and the user will be John. So we have a John user, and this is going to be for the first name and then the last name, and he's going to be from the IT department, and his salary will be, I don't know, maybe 5 or 50,000 or something like that. And I'm going to just provide a comma, and now let me just add a lot more users right here. Or you know, I'm gonna just add 2 users. So now let me just add there right here, and we would have the ID of 2. Name will be Jenny Smith, and he is going to be from the HR department, and his salary will be the amount. And then we have the Alice and Johnson for the last name, and he's going to be from the finance department. So now let me just execute this query, and here you can see everything is working okay. Now the next thing which I want to do is that I want to create a view. So how in the world we are going to be creating a view? And to create that, we are going to be first of all using, or you know, first of all, let me just write like select the ID, and we're going to be using a concat method which allows us to concatenate the first name. So now let me just write like the first name, and I'm going to provide a comma and then space, and then I'm going to be using like the last name. Okay, so it's going to just add, like, let's suppose if we have the name of HuXn WebDev. So here you can see we have the name of HuXn, and then we have some sort of another name like WebDev. So it's gonna just give us the result of HuXn and then WebDev right here. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to just remove that from here, and we're going to be concatenating full name. And now the next thing which I want to do is that I want to provide some sort of an alias for that. So I'm going to be just using like as full name, and we want to get every single thing or all of their users from the employees table right here. And now if I execute that, and here you can see it's going to give us the ID, and it's going to also give us the full name of the users right here, which is supremely okay. But let's suppose if I want to run this query like a lot of time, so anytime I want to use this query, so I'm going to have to write this select and then the ID, then we have to write this concatenate function, and inside there we have to write this first name, last name, and then we have to specify some sort of an alias for that, and then finally we have to mention from which table we are going to be grabbing all of the user. So instead of doing all of that, we just have to create a new view for that. And to create a view for that, we are going to be just using the create and then the view, what do we call it, create view result keyword, and then we are going to be writing the employee. You can give it like any name you like right here. Then I'm going to just write like employee and then names, and I'm going to just write like as right here, and that's it. That's it, baby. That's everything that we have to do. So now let me just say that once again. If you want to create a view, first of all, we have to write a create view result keywords. Then we have to give it some sort of a name. So in my case, I just give it the name of like employee names. And then we have to specify the as result keyword. And then we have to specify all of that entire query which you want to like reuse again and again. Okay, so now I can totally use this employee names, and it's going to give us the same result right here. Okay, so I'm going to just close this query right here. And I'm going to just say like select every single thing from the employee names. And now let me just execute this query, and PC employee names. I guess that's because we didn't execute this query. So now let me just execute there, and now here you can see our view is now successfully created. And I can tell you that by going into my database, and then here you can see inside this views, if I expand that, and here you can see we have this employee names right here, and if I click on that, so it's going to give us the result of that view. And now I can click on this execute, and here you can see it's going to also give us that same result right here. So this is how we are going to be creating a view. This is how we are going to be querying a view or using a view. And now let's talk about how we are going to be updating our existing view right here. So how in the world we are going to be doing that. So now let me just write a comment like update the view or recreate it. So now we have to write like first of all the create, and then we are going to be using the or, like either create it or replace it. Okay, so then we are going to be just writing the view name. In this case, it's going to be like first of all the view result keyword, and now which kind of view we want to either update or recreate or replace, whatever you want to call that. So in my case, I'm only interested in this employee name, so I'm going to just copy that and place that right here. And now let me just provide my as result keyword, and now here underneath that you can do anything that you want to do right here. So I can write like all of that logic, so I'm going to just copy that. Now let me just place that right here. And you know what, let me just also specify something different, like where the department, come on, department, where the department is equal to IT. So I want you to give me all of their users from the employee table where the department is equal to IT. Okay, so we are going to be storing all of that information inside this employee names, and now we are replacing we are changing the logic inside this view right here. Like in this view which we've already created, we are only concatenating the first name, the last name from the employees, and we are just renaming that, or we are providing an alias for that as a full name. But now in this case we are doing all of that, and also we are now providing the where clause, and now we are providing the condition of department is equal to IT right here. So now if I execute that, so it's gonna just recreate or replace our existing query right here, or view, whatever you want to call that. And now the next thing which I want to do is that first of all I'm going to just close that, and now I'm going to just use like select every single thing from the employee names. And if I execute that, and here you can see we are now getting like only this one user right here. And why is that? That's because we are now providing where the department is equal to IT, and we have only one person who is from the IT department. That's why we are only getting this first like that one user right here. So this is how we are going to be creating a view. This is how we are going to be querying a view. This is how we are going to be updating a view. And now let's talk about the final one which is how we are going to be deleting a view. So delete the view. Okay, so yeah, and now let's talk about it. So if you want to delete a view, so here you can see we have this employee names right here. So if I want to delete that, so I'm going to be just using like drop, come on, drop, and then the view, and then we have provided the view name, which is the employee name right here in this case. And as soon as I click on this execute, and here you can see that view is now successfully removed, and we can no longer use that. So yeah, that was it about, I guess, for this entire course, and you learned crazy amount of stuff in this course. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and if you have any kind of questions, so feel free to comment there below, and I'm gonna be more than happy to help you out. And if you have any other course idea, so feel free to just comment there below, and I'm gonna make a separate course on that. So once again, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for watching this entire course, and I hope it was helpful for you. So take care and love you all.